guys, Veggie Gamer back, and we're back to the Harry Potter book club reviews, VEGGIEKNIGHTS. We're now into, this is the second part of my Harry Potter the Chamber of Secrets review. We will be covering chapters 5 until 7. And yes, guys, these are excellent chapters. I gotta say right now, I think that Gilderoy is much better done in the books, which is insane, because he's fantastic in the movie. So we shall get to my thoughts on there. There are a lot of changes in these chapters, guys, and we will be going into all of those as always. Thank you so much for your support on this series, guys. It is greatly appreciated. Experiencing this story again, but with the original context, is just fascinating. And I said it in my Philosopher's Stone review, how different Harry is. That doesn't change here, guys. He's still so different than he is in the movie. And so we'll be going into our what we think the reasons may have been why they changed certain things. But all in all, guys, let's get on to this. These, like I say, these chapters are really awesome. So thank you all so much for your support on this. If you want to check these out early, guys, I do post them on the Patreon first. And so if you're up to speed and everything, but you want some more Veggie book review content, there is always going to be the option of paying towards the Patreon, guys. You can back it for as little as you want, and you also get access to all the movie reactions that I've done and so on and so forth. And you could be a part of the Harry Potter book club, which means that you can get your comment read out in these videos as well. And like we discuss it at the end. We cover the I'm going to sneeze in a second. I need to stop recording real quick. I really need to patent something called YouTuber Knows, because I'm sure that other YouTubers have had this, guys, where you think you're going to sneeze, and then the second that you stop recording, it just completely dissipates. So either way. But yeah, you can check out the Patreon if you want to be a part of these book clubs, guys. We'll cover the 3 chapters, and then at the end, I cover your comments for these for these chapters. It could be questions, it could be thoughts, it could be things that you notice. Whatever you want, guys. They're greatly. It's the funnest part of doing these reviews is actually covering those comments, and so look out for that at the end. These reviews seem to be getting longer and longer as I do them, and so, yes, like I say, if you're up to speed on YouTube, you can just wait, and they will eventually come out on the YouTube channel. Or if you want to get them straight away and be a part of these discussions, the options there. If you want to. Never feel like you need to back the Patreon though, guys. This is free content after all. It will all be coming to the channel for free. So let's get on with chapter 5, because the first episode we did 4 because there's a lot of backtracking and everything. But let's get on with chapter 5, the Whomping Willow. So as always, I've written up a summarization for the chapter, and then we'll go through my notes point by point afterwards. So, the past month at the Burrow has been the happiest of Harry's life. Summer is over and it's time to start school at Hogwarts. The Weasleys drive the students to the train station and make their way through to platform 9 3/4. But when Ron and Harry attempt it, they hit solid wall. Trying their best to get through, they miss the scheduled leaving time of the Hogwarts Express. Trying to work out a way to get to school, Ron suddenly remembers the car. Which is, we'll go on to. His delivery in the movie is kind of weird, guys. I didn't say it at the time when I was watching when I was doing my movie reaction, but his delivery of that line is a little bit weird. They agree to fly, use the car to follow the train. Several boring hours after tracking it down and following along, the car is exhausted, finally falling to earth just as they reach Hogwarts. It lands hard atop a large tree that suddenly starts to swing and smash the car wildly. The car manages to reverse away just in time, before throwing Ron and Harry out with their luggage and pets. The two manage to reach the school and peer into the Great Hall to see the sorting hat ceremony already underway. They are noticed by... Oh no, they notice that Snape is not at the star table before hearing his voice behind them. Snape takes the two to his office. Here he gives them a dressing down before going to get McGonagall and Dumbledore. They are given detention and their families will be written to on the matter. They eat a supper McGonagall magics up for them before heading back to the Gryffindor Tower, where they are greeted with a hero's welcome, which is hilarious. We will get to that. But yeah, there are several big differences, guys, in this chapter opposed to the movie. But it's awesome as well, though. These are all three of the chapters that we're covering today are fairly longer ones, and they pack a lot in, seriously. So yeah, like I said, Harry says that, the book says how the month at the Burrow that Harry's been there, presumably since they went to Diagon Alley and everything, has been the happiest of Harry's life, which is just so blooming sweet. And it says how he's actually really jealous of Ron, having this family in this house and this this close-knit family and everything, which is obviously something that Harry has never even experienced before, which is very sweet. It really is. You'd never have the movie Harry. The thing is, because the good thing in the book is that you can say what's going on inside his head. But Harry would never out loud say, "I'm jealous of your family" or anything like that. And so hearing the fact that he is actually jealous of him it's so sweet, guys. It's just a simple line at the start of the chapter, and it means so much. He mentions about how, like, the next time he's going to turn up on the Dursleys' drive and what they're going to think of it on everything, which is very interesting, guys. I'm wondering if at the end of this book we're going to be getting a little bit more of the Dursleys, or if that is actually it for the Dursleys, because, yeah, that next meeting is going to be awkward, guys, especially what happened in the previous chapter. But, yeah, he says, like, he's sure it's not going to be as nice and welcome as the Weasleys have been providing him. On the day before heading back to school, Molly makes them all like a meal for Harry, and they have treacle pudding, which I'm sure came up in the first chapter as something which Harry particularly likes. I'm pretty sure. We find out that the car is a Ford Angular, and I looked it up, and it does seem to be an actual car. I'm pretty sure that in this, I mean, that's product placement where it's actually saying a real-life product, which you probably can't get anymore, so maybe that's okay. But later on in the chapters, I'm pretty sure it says a phrase which I'm not even sure is said outside of the UK. It might be. But it definitely is a product, though, later on, which kind of surprised me that they'd have actual product names in the book. But we'll get to that later on. Yeah, they're using the car to get to the train station, and Arthur, like, uses magic to make the trunk. And I think, like, the back seats actually like extended, so the back seats are actually like a park bench, as he says. And he, like, turns to Harry and says, "Not a word to Molly." Very interesting. Molly and Arthur's relationship is so different in the book. I think that maybe I think I went into this last time where I think that maybe they are in the movie. They wanted to calm Molly down a little bit because she's not in the movies that much. And if you're going to have these short scenes of her, like, you know, being an absolute angel to Harry, but then go nuclear on Arthur and Ron and everything, it may, like, give the wrong impression. And Arthur he's definitely more mischievous in the books. But again, I think that's just because of lack of time. They didn't have time to fit in this whole thing where Arthur is basically always trying to hide stuff from Molly, and Molly's always, like, you know, giving him an earful. So different. But I think because in the book you got that extra time, it's such a nice addition to their relationships. I think it's absolutely wonderful. I can understand why they wouldn't be able to do it in the movie to this extent, though. So yeah, they keep on leaving the house, and, like, each of the Weasleys remembers something that they had to go back to again, like Ginny's diary and everything like this, and one of Fred and George's broomstick they left somehow. You'd think the broomstick and wand would be the first absolute definite things that you'd have, you know, ready to take. So that's really nice, and it actually explains why they're late to the train station, because in the movie it's just like, oh, only 2 minutes to go, which doesn't seem like a very Weasley thing to do. Arthur or Molly, I think would get them to the station on time if, you know, avoiding anything going wrong. And so the fact that basically each of the Weasley kids forgot something and that they had to drive back In fact, they'd actually reached the motorway. We're just about to reach the motorway when Ginny noticed that her things were missing. And they're down in, are they in Cornwall or Devon? So in the bottom southwest of the UK, guys, you have Cornwall, and then a small area called Devon, and then I mean it's all England, but and then the rest of the counties. The rest of the counties towards London, including Oxfordshire, is actually in between. And I'm pretty sure they're meant to be in Cornwall, but that is a long drive, though, guys. From Cornwall to Devon on a good day would undoubtedly take at least 3.5 hours, I'd say. So no wonder they're blooming late. But we have the context here of why they're actually late, because each of them just kept on forgetting blooming things. So yes, obviously they all go through platform three quarters, and then Ron and Harry try and just smash into the wall. We do have the train guard, who I loved the train guard in Philosopher's Stone and this Chamber of Secrets, guys, in the movies, and he's only in it for like one shot of each. And like, is it like on Philosophy Stone, he's like say 9 3/4 trying to be funny, and then here he's like, hey, what are you doing, when they like go smashing into it. So we do actually hear about the guard this time, which is nice. And when they do, and I'm glad about this line, so they go smashing into the wall. And as I remember, not many people in the movie stop and stare at what's going on, but there seems to be like a growing crowd around Ron and Harry as they're stood there, shocked about not being able to get into the platform, which is obviously a big no-no for the Wizarding World. And they overhear people talking about cruelty to animals and everything. Because I think if you remember my reaction to Chamber of Secrets, guys, I was just worried about Hedwig at this point. Poor blooming thing. Presumably Scabbers was on Ron's trolley. But it actually notes how Hedwig's cage is like rolling around and everything. Oh, poor thing. And yeah, it's not. It is like literally like seconds after they go smashing into the wall when they look up at the clock and realise that they've missed the Hogwarts Express. Whereas in the book you have I think it's like a couple of minutes where they keep on looking up at the clock, trying to work out a way of getting through, trying to come up with a good plan of what they should do next. As it ticks on until it actually hits 11, and they've missed the train officially. So yeah, it's a nice addition in there. Ron says to Harry, "Do you have any Muggle money?" Which I don't know what his plan is there. Maybe maybe get a taxi. I don't know. I can't imagine what Ron's plan was there. But like Harry laughs him off and says that he hasn't had pocket money for 6 years. Which, poor Harry. I mean, that means that when he was 6, he was getting pocket money. Which is quite... Is that young? I guess it isn't, is it? I'm not sure. But yeah, poor Harry, as always. Literally, poor Harry. And then... I think it is. Yeah. Harry says something about the car, and you have Ron say the car. Now, like I say just now, I think that oh my goodness, the guy who plays Ron, Rupert Grint. There we go, not Grunt. I think he's fantastic in the movies, but the way he delivered that line, I thought he was like. He delivered it like he didn't know what it was that Harry was saying. He goes. Car like that, whereas obviously it's meant to be the car. He's just had this great idea, not knocking the kid. He was like 12 years old in Harry, but the way he delivered that line always makes me laugh a little bit, because he just looks completely confused, like he doesn't know what Harry means by the car. But yeah, Harry is all up for this plan. In fact, he actually says his expression changed from worry to excitement when he realised that they are actually going to be taking the car directly to Hogwarts. So that's very different than his approach in the movie. And when Harry says, is it going to be alright and everything, and Ron says, even underaged wizards can use magic in an emergency because of Section 19 of the restriction of thingy. Again, Ron is definitely Arthur's son. It's actually really nice, because I think that out of all of the Weasleys, and I've only just met Book Arthur. Book Arthur, that sounds like something else. But I've only just met Book Arthur, guys. And already I can tell he is being specifically written to be an older version of Ron. Much more than the other Weasleys, which I think is just lovely. But they definitely have the same personality. I should say, guys, if I'm a little bit shiny, it's because it is very warm outside and I'm having to wear a scarf. So I apologise about that. But I'm trying to stay hydrated. So. Oh, yeah. So we hear about apparating. So Ron says that that Molly and Arthur can just apparate, like, to get back to the house, and so it's not a biggie that they're taking the car immediately, although there was never any plan of, well, what's the car going to do once they get to Hogwarts? I'm guessing fly back on its own? Because it certainly has its own personality, which obviously we get more of that in this chapter. I don't know. I don't think they thought that far. That's the thing. And McGonagall does, in the book, and she said, why didn't you just do this? Later on, it's like, oh yeah, why didn't they just do that? So we'll get there when we get there, though. But yes, hearing about apparating this early, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, in the movies, the first time we even hear about apparating is at the start of Half-Blood Prince. No. Goblet of Fire, because surely... No, because they're using the portal, aren't they? A waystone or whatever. It's a boot, isn't it? That use at the start of Goblet, and then it turns out to be the same as the Goblet, being a some sort of teleporting waypoint. So does that mean that they're technically not apparating? You know, they're not self-apparating, I guess. So the first time we hear about self-apparating, I'm pretty sure it's Dumbledore at the start of Half-Blood Prince in the movies. Correct me if I'm wrong, though, guys. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. It just stood out to me as like, apparating. Do we even know about that this time in the movies? And I'm pretty sure that we don't, guys. I'm pretty sure that we don't. Ron presses the invisibility button before they take off. Now, this is just... I mean, you guys, even when I was doing my movie reaction, like saying that Ron is done dirty often in the books. And this is another example of Ron being made to look very foolish in the movie. Then again, he is from the Wizarding World, and maybe he doesn't know... No, he knows that the car should not be seen by Muggles. Because he knows that Fred and George are taken out several times beforehand, you know, without Arthur and Molly knowing. So for him to take off without pressing the invisibility button is a bit silly. I guess because they're so excited or in such a rush, he may have just momentarily slipped his mind. But in the book, he presses it before they go off. And it's interesting because it actually says how when Harry looks down, he doesn't even see his body. Which is very different from a lot of invisible vehicle things, guys. I'm trying to think with Wonder Woman. I think he actually... I can't remember. In fact, I've only seen like a bit of the first movie. Yes. And I don't think the invisible plane was on that. It may have been, I'm not sure. But I'm pretty sure that either she stays visible or she can still see the ship around her. It's just the outside of the ship which is invisible. But no, this button actually makes Harry and Ron disappear to themselves. He can't even see his own body, which is pretty freaky. Let's admit it. But that's a really awesome little detail which we certainly didn't hear about in the movie. In fact, I'm trying to think even what happens in the movie when they turn the car invisible. I don't think we see it. I think that as soon as he presses the button, we only see outside shots, I think. But yeah, very nice detail about the fact that they are even turning invisible as well. The visibility booster is faulty, which obviously explains how Snape has that paper later on in this chapter and in the movie. The fact that they have been spotted. And because in the movie it's like Ron is being blamed for it because he didn't press the button in time, whereas in the book it is that the button is actually faulty and it just keeps on reappearing. In fact, Snape actually talks about people all over England going north have been spotting them. So that's not Ron's. I mean, it is Ron and Harry's fault the fact that they're driving it, but what I'm saying is it isn't that Ron forgot to press it. They got spotted and then you know, they press the button and all's grand after that. No, they press the button immediately. It's because the Arthur's or the car. I guess it's the car's fault technically, because it does get exhausted, doesn't it? Keeps on the invisibility filter keeps failing them as they're going north. So again, it makes Ron less. It's less of Ron's fault that they're being seen. Absolutely. They find the train easily. Now, even when watching the movie, I don't think I thought it specifically, but I was thinking this is a very movie scene where like the car is like going underneath the rail bridge and like spinning around, and Harry's falling out and Ron's grabbing him and everything. It definitely felt very Hollywood. That being said, it is gorgeous. It's a brilliant scene, guys. Even if you love the movies, the books much more than the movies, I gotta say I do like that scene. The only bit where when they're driving along like just above the railway track, for whatever reason, this is like the stupidest possible. Because I thought the train was gonna come towards them, but yeah, why they would drive that close to the railway track is ridiculous. But again, it's a kids movie. Well, it's a family movie, I guess, isn't it? But you can't really take it too seriously. But none of that is in the book at all. So that was a big surprise for that. The fact that most of the journey is incredibly boring. They actually go into it and say, like, several hours after, uneventful hours later. Because it would take a long time to get to Hogwarts. I've got here how it's very interesting that I don't think at all in the movies, and I don't think, certainly not so far in the books, has it specifically said that Hogwarts is in Scotland. Now, maybe it isn't technically Scotland because it's an area beyond, the Scottish government or the British government's remit of what Scotland actually is. But then again, the Ministry is in London. They go to London to go to the Ministry. And so it's very interesting that at no point does it actually specifically say that Hogwarts is in Scotland. Just a little observation there. It's not a problem. It's just interesting that it never specifically states it. One of them says, "Look out for planes," which is obviously ridiculous. And like Harry, in his head, thinks to himself, this is the only way to travel. So at first, he's absolutely loving it, which is very different again from the movie, because the movie he is basically giving Ron an earful. Basically, until they're just about to get to Hogwarts, which is when he starts smiling. But no, they're actually having a great time eating loads of fudge and everything. But then it does say several uneventful hours later, which is true, guys. It would take a long time to get from London to anywhere in Scotland. And so, even by flying car, it would take a long, long time. And the car is getting tired. It's like, it's wipers are like going frantically and everything, and like Ron's patting the dashboard saying, I can't remember what he's saying. He's like, keep going or it'll be okay or something like that. But yeah, the car is actually getting absolutely exhausted, which is, when I was watching the movie, that is not something which I thought was actually happening. I thought that maybe Ron had screwed up when the car started to fall. But no, it's specifically saying that the car is exhausted and it needs a break, but they just keep on pushing it. Because, I mean, they're following a train, so what can you do? But seriously, I guess once you're on the railway track to Hogwarts, there aren't going to be that many crossings? Because it'd all have to be wizarding crossings, wouldn't it? Because this is a railway road that goes to 9 3/4. Unless Muggles would never question a railway track going in a direction to somewhere where they just think it's going to King's Cross, wouldn't they? Yeah, so I guess it could have crossings. But yeah, it's a very long and boring journey with the car getting absolutely knackered. They don't have anything to drink, and so by the time that they're getting, towards Hogwarts, they're kind of fed up. And yeah, it's the fact that the car is exhausted is why it starts to fall. In fact, I think it actually starts to fall before they get to Hogwarts. I think they're very close. I know that Ron, narrowly is able to avoid hitting a black stone wall, I think it said. And then they hit the Whomping Willow. This is very well done in the movie, it really is. Obviously, we have Ron's wand getting snapped and everything, but this scene is absolutely pretty accurate to the movie was pretty accurate to the book. And yeah, the car spits them out and goes driving off. Obviously, we know where it's going, but I think at this point we're maybe thinking that it's going to be going home, but it's a heck of a journey to have to head back again. And yeah, we have a great line from Ron, which maybe is in the movie. Maybe it is. I don't think it is, but Ron, I have refreshed myself this time, actually, guys, by watching the scenes relevant. I don't think this line is in it, but Ron says, of all the trees we could have hit, we had to get one that hits back. Maybe he did say it. I apologize, guys. I have literally just refreshing my mind, but I can't remember if that specific line was actually in the movie. It's a good line either way. So yeah, here's another big change, guys. Obviously, in the movie, we have them dumping their stuff and going up the steps to be greeted by Filch, who then says, "Aren't we in trouble?" Which is interesting because he said that line in the Philosopher's Stone movie. This, by the way, is an arcade ball top, Finrates. Joystick. So yeah, that line is actually in the Philosopher's Stone, the book. But Filch ain't in this scene at all. And so they're sneaking around and they're peering into the Great Hall and everything. And they're seeing they see Colin for the first time. In fact, they're looking at these staff tables, and it says how Hagrid is there. I can't remember if Hagrid is at the staff table during Philosopher's Stone. I don't think there is a scene where he would be at the table in Chambers. Obviously, at the end, he comes in through the door, doesn't he? Spoilers. But yeah, I can't remember if Hagrid's actually at the staff table in the Philosopher's Stone movie. Obviously, he when he gets promoted, he starts being at the table, which would be in Azkaban. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure if Hagrid is at the staff table. He should be, really, but then again, so should Filch. If Hagrid is at the staff table, guys, why wouldn't Filch be? Unless Filch's job never stopped and he has to always be monitoring the halls, but that's what Mrs. Norris is for. That's very interesting. Because of the first book, particularly, but I already see Filch and Hagrid as being at the same level at Hogwarts. I do personally, anyway. But I'm pretty certain it does not mention about Filch and Mrs. Norris being at the staff table. In fact, whenever Filch is often at the back of the hall, in fact, during the movies, I should say. But why wouldn't he be at the... You would... Maybe he is, because... No. I'm not sure if this line is in Philosopher's Stone, guys, but in the book... Dumbledore says how Mr. Filch wants to remind students to not go to the third floor corridor. But where Filch is at that point, he certainly isn't at the staff table. Again, he's probably at the back of the hall. Well, there you go. Anyway, the fact that Hagrid was at the table did throw me off a little bit, but he very possibly may have been there on the Philosopher's Stone as well. So yes, they start speculating why Snape. I'm going to sneeze. I'm actually going to sneeze. I apologise. See, that's what happens if you don't stop the recording. You actually do sneeze. YouTuber knows, guys. YouTuber knows. They start speculating why Snape isn't at the staff table, because he's noticeable by his absence. And they're like saying maybe how he may have quit because he failed to get the Defense Against the Darts teacher role again after what happened with Quirrell. But Gilderoy gets in there instead. I can't remember who it is, but during these chapters, someone remarks, I think it may actually be Ron, remarks about the fact how few people are applying for the Dark Arts role. And so it is suspicious at this point even how Snape isn't getting that role. Obviously, we as the viewer know why that is, but that was an interesting line which we will come up to soon. And then they hear, or maybe he's standing behind you wondering why you're not in your uniforms and why you didn't come to school on the Hogwarts Express and everything. And so Snape catches him, completely different from in the movies. Obviously, it's Filch that catches him, who then takes him to Snape, which is a bit strange. We do know from the books that Snape and Filch do get on. Or at least they get on better than they do with other people, is probably the better way of putting it. But no, it's straight up Snape that catches him, and he walks him to his office, going down this spiral staircase and everything, which obviously we see in the later movies. And Snape does seem a lot more confident in this scene. Like, he's almost seeming like Filch, where he knows that they're in real big trouble and everything. In the movie, he seems genuinely upset at them. He actually does, and also seems a little bit childish as well in that scene. It was definitely, that scene was like, oh, this is a different side of Snape that I've ever seen before in the movie version. Whereas in the book, he's kind of gleeful about what's going on. He's like smiling whenever, like, you know, when Dumbledore walks into the room and everything, he's got like a big grin on his face and everything. But in the movie, he seems genuinely upset at the students. He refers to Ron as a sidekick, which is hilarious. That's absolutely amazing. And yeah, we hear about how in the Evening Prophet, it has been reported these Muggle sightings of this flying car, and they're all over the place. It's not just in London; it's all over the place, and so that's why the invisibility thing is failing. Whereas in the movie, when he holds up the paper, it shows them over King's Cross, and so that's such a big difference for Ron's character. It really is. It's not the end of the world, but it definitely gives a different impression of what. Of Ron as a character. So yes, we hear about how I think it's Snape says to Ron how how his father is working for the Ministry and misuse of Muggle artifacts and everything, and which is obviously like a direct hit to Ron, saying that Arthur's going to be in trouble. We hear so much early on about Arthur in the book, and it's greatly appreciated, because it took me a while, I think more than the other Harry Potter movies. Chamber of Secrets took me a while to get settled, because there was so much going on I didn't fully understand. And Arthur, I'm sure it says it several times, but I was confused about exactly what his role was. And so it's really hit home how this specific crime, I guess crime is, well, crime might be a bit of a strong word, but this naughty thing that they've done is specifically bad because of Ron's father's role. I know how hard that would hit Ron. I'm really glad that it does keep on making that point, and the fact that Arthur is the one who enchanted the car as well. So it's so much more significant and easier to digest in the movie. And he mentions how about them hitting the Whomping Willow and everything. It doesn't have the line which is in the movie where Snape says about how hit a Whomping Willow which has been on this grounds for longer than you have been born. And when the way that Alan Rickman delivers that line, he looks genuinely upset. It's almost as if like the Whomping Willow is his mate. You know, it's like, you know, since you've been born, he looks really upset. Whereas in the book, he is this like, I've got you now sort of mentality that Snape has. He is angry. He is putting him in the place, but he definitely seems less upset in the book than he seemed, at least to me, in that scene. Yeah, so Snape goes and gets Dumbledore, or at least calls for Dumbledore, and gets McGonagall. And this is so different in the book, guys. And I do prefer it because it makes Dumbledore and McGonagall are so much more realistic characters in this scene. Because in the movie, like, Dumbledore interrupts whilst entering the room when Snape is giving him an earful. And like Snape saying, oh, they did that and everything. And instantly chastises Snape. It seems weird, guys. In the movie, I specifically talking about here, sorry. It seems almost as if Dumbledore is there to save Ron and Harry from Snape. Which is insane, because Ron and Harry are the ones in the wrong in this situation. And McGonagall is much more angry in the movie. Than in the movie, I should say. And Dumbledore is actually... He has a great line where he very calmly, not like, you know, the famous line from Goblet of Fire, but very calmly says to them, please explain why you did this. That is a I'm not angry, I'm disappointed line, if ever I've heard one, guys. And that's a great line. Because it shows sadness. And the last person in the world that Harry would want to upset is Dumbledore. There is none of that in the movie. At all. Like I say, it is like... I mean, Dumbledore may as well like kicked the door down and given, like, you know, Snape a suplex onto a table or something like that. It genuinely seems like he's there to save the day. Stop Ron and Harry being told off. Which is insane, because they are at fault in this situation. Now, when it is made clear that McGonagall is going to be the one to decide on their fate and everything, and Dumbledore takes Snape out of the room, saying about the custard tart that you can't wait to try. Snape is like, oh, fine. I think it like says that. Oh, what is the line? I just noticed a crazy coincidence, guys. In the book, it says something like Snape's facial expression looks like... Okay, I need to look this up because this is interesting. If this is correct, I just found a very interesting connection between this and another very famous book. Hang on one moment. Okay, one real quick thing. I was wrong, guys. Snape does not say about Arthur, you know, his role and everything. It's never brought up the fact that, in fact, Ron and Harry purposely don't say that it's Arthur's car, because that would obviously be very bad for Arthur. But Dumbledore doesn't even ask about the car, which is very interesting. Undoubtedly, Dumbledore knows that it's Arthur's car, quite frankly. But I've just found an awesome connection, guys. Okay. This is awesome! This is kind of bizarre. This must have been remarked upon. This has to have been remarked upon before. If it hasn't, I win all the points. For Hufflepuff. Guys. When it looks like that they're not getting expelled, and Dumbledore actually says the line about, you know, how he must let them know how important it is, and that he's going to write to his parents. It's actually McGonagall in the movie who says that part. There is a line in the book where it says, Snape looks like it was the face of someone who just found out that Christmas has been cancelled, or something like that. Specifically, that Christmas has been cancelled. Now, there is a movie, It's called Robin Hood. It's just called Robin Hood, or is it called Prince of Thieves? It's the 90s Robin Hood movie, guys. It's very good, actually. I saw it when I was a kid, and I remember I enjoyed it. And probably the most famous line from the entire movie is when the sheriff of Nottingham is like saying, like, you know, raise taxes and go after Robin Hood and everything like that. And he's furious as he storms out and says, and cancel Christmas, as he's walking out. Do you know who plays the sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, guys? Alan Rickman. That's awesome. So, Alan Rickman in my head, because I am still trying to avoid thinking of Alan Rickman, guys, when I'm listening to Snape's dialogue and everything. Snape having the face of someone who, I can't remember the exact line, but it is saying about Christmas being cancelled because he's looking so down. For Alan Rickman to then go on to play Snape, having that line is the most famous line from that movie, guys. So he says, I cancel Christmas, which is hilarious. That is an awesome connection. I've taken way too long to talk about this thing, but I feel very proud of myself that I remembered that. That's actually really cool. Anyway, enough waffle. Doobie 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 doo. So, again, Filch isn't in this scene, guys. And even Filch looks like he's been, like, you know... I don't want to say it because it sounds weird, guys, but he feels it's like Snape and Filch are almost pretty much castrated in this scene. They're basically humiliated by Dumbledore's and McGonagall's approach to Ron and Harry, which again is ridiculous. In the movie, this is. And then, like, you know, then like Harry like sees like Filch has dropped a card, which is something like magic for beginners or something. It really goes to make them. Snape and Filch look pathetic in that scene, and I don't know why they would do that, because it's nothing like the book version at all. The thing is, guys, you know that I've got affection for Filch. I think that he's such an interesting character, and Mrs. Norris, obviously. I think that they're fascinating, quite frankly. And even for Snape, this is the most Snape has ever been humiliated at this point. In the movies I'm talking about. Because he is. He's basically slapped down by Dumbledore. And let's be frank, guys, Snape is right in this scene. And so, in the book, he basically says, it's McGonagall's job, let's go back to the feast. Leaving McGonagall with Ron and Harry to talk it out. But in the movie, that scene ends with Snape and Filch essentially being humiliated. So weird. That is a strange old change. If you think you know why that would have been made, guys, that decision, let me know, because that's the first change where I think, why did they do that? I do have that with Hermione a lot in the first book as well. Why certain things would be changed for her. And we'll get onto that in the third chapter in this video, guys, because there is a big change for her, opposed to the books and in the movies. Boom. So yeah, McGonagall. So Ron and Harry actually say about the barrier at 9 3/4, and how they can get through. Which they didn't bring up in the movie. To be fair, the movie scenes are so short that they can't bring up everything, but that is a fair point. That is literally the reason why they did what they did. That's the actual excuse that they could at least give. It's still not perfect, but it is a good excuse. It is a good reason, at least, to do it. And McGonagall says, well, why don't you just send an owl? And, and Harry's like, oh yeah, we should have just sent an owl. But they're panicking, they're kids, you know, there's no adult around them and everything, so maybe that was it. But that was a good line that McGonagall's like, you've got an owl, Harry, you could have just sent it to tell us what had happened. So yeah, Dumbledore doesn't ask about the car. Like I said, it's very possible that he knows that it's Arthur's car anyway. And yes, it's Dumbledore who's going to write to the families, and Harry thinks to himself how the Dursleys will just be disappointed that he didn't die in the altercation with the Whomping Willow, which is sad. Harry very smartly says about how term hasn't started yet. And so basically, they shouldn't have points taken off them for Gryffindor, which is cool, guys. Harry in the book has this absolute obsession with gaining and not losing Gryffindor house points. He is so proud of Gryffindor, which is just awesome. And you don't really get that in the movies, guys. Really, I can't think of any moment where his dialogue is such that you really think that him being a part of something like Gryffindor is one of the most important aspects of his life. It's just like a part of school life for him in the movies, I'd say. But yeah, he like says, term hadn't started when we did this, so you can't take off points, and McGonagall agrees with them. I mean, Harry is so much better fleshed out in the books, which was obviously always going to be the case. McGonagall like magics up some supper for them. And yeah, we hear about how Fred and George had taken the car out several times, and Ron furious that they never got spotted, and yet they get spotted for the first time with the invisibility button faltering, which I don't know if it's going to be significant. I wonder if the button is faltering just because the car is getting tired. I don't think that's going to pay off. It might do though. I'll keep my ears out. So finally, after that scene is over, Ron and Harry are on their way to the Gryffindor Tower, and Hermione turns up behind them, and says, "There's these ridiculous rumors about you driving a flying car to school." And just wait, you actually did it? And I think Ron says no, enough of the lecture or something like that, so they can get on using the new password so they get into the Gryffindor Tower. And when it opens up, there's just a full room of Gryffindors all applauding and saying nice work and everything like that. Lee Jordan's there, who's absolutely amazed by it. Fred and George are annoyed that they didn't get to come to Hogwarts in that way, which is amazing. And then Ron spies Percy in the distance trying to get to them. He's pushing people out of the way and everything, and he says, "You know what, we should probably just go to bed," so that Percy doesn't get to them in time, which is just amazing. Percy's so good, guys. He is barely in the second movie, as I remember. But that's a really nice line where he's trying to get to them through the crowd of people that are all celebrating what they've just done. Awesome, awesome, awesome chapter. Loved the book version of this. I really did. Very, very different. Some changes I'm absolutely fine with. Like I say, the action scene in the flying car was a very nice addition. The tone of this scene in Snape's office, now I look back on it in the movie, is just weird. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on that, guys, because it's very possible that I've just got the wrong end of the stick there. But let's get on now to Chapter 6, Gilderoy Lockhart. He is amazing in the book. The next day, the group are eating breakfast when post arrives. Errol crash lands into Hermione's jug with a red envelope for Ron. It turns out to be a howler that screams at him in anger about what he and Harry did with the car. First lesson of the year is herbology with the Hufflepuffs, which should be a game show. Professor Sprout arrives with Professor Lockhart, who makes another beeline for Harry, taking him into a room to talk privately. He gives Harry advice on being famous and getting publicity, which is absolutely hilarious. Sprout's lesson begins, and the group learn how to repot mandrakes. During the break, Harry notices a boy with a camera staring at him. He introduces himself as Colin Creevy and asks for a picture with Harry. Draco with Crabbe and Goyle arrives and starts loudly accusing Harry of giving out signed photos. Lockhart again interrupts the argument and forces Harry to take a picture with him. He then walks him to his classroom, giving him more advice on Harry's want for attention. Just brilliant. The defense against dark arts lesson begins, and the class are forced to take a quiz all about Lockhart. He then lets a cage of Cornish pixies out, which Ron and Mox smash and wreck the classroom. After attempting to control the situation, one of the pixies steals Lockhart's wand, and he instructs Harry, Ron and Hermione to get the rest back in their cage. That's a weirdly short description, guys, but that is everything that happens. I said it's a short description. I loved this chapter. This is one of my favourite chapters I feel like it so far, because Lockhart is amazing in it. And also we meet Justin here. Obviously we have more Sprout and everything. That seems pretty different in the movie, but we'll go into my notes now. I believe that we're actually approaching an hour already, guys. This is ridiculous how long I can just waffle on about this for so long. I know that you guys say that you like the longer videos, but I do apologize because sometimes I really get sidetracked. So yes, we start off in the breakfast room, and it says how like the weather in the ceiling, the enchanted ceiling, is very overcast. I'm wondering exactly why that is. If it's connected to how individuals in the room are feeling, because obviously Harry's feeling a bit down on himself already with everything that had happened the previous night. Not so much in the movie because he got off basically completely scot-free. Oh, not really. But yeah, it does say how the weather is overcast. Obviously, in Half-Blood Prince, when Ron is getting stared at by oh, bloomin' heck, the girl. It like says how Hermione like says you're making it rain or something like that, because of his emotions. And so yeah, it's very interesting that the weather seems to be connected with how at least individuals are feeling in the room, I think. Or maybe I'm just really estimating this. Hermione like says good morning to Harry, but she's clearly really disapproving of what they'd got up to the previous day. Hermione's great. Errol falls into Hermione's jug and appears to be actually unconscious from the landing, spraying milk everywhere. And yes, Ron gets the howler. Now, it at no point does it say anything about a mouth appearing and you know, actually animatedly talking to Ron. So this just seems to be a letter that opens up, and it smokes if you don't open it. It says that it started to smoke because he hadn't opened it yet. And obviously we do have the line in the movie and in the book where Neville says that once he ignored one and it was terrible. Horrible. But yeah, there's no animated mouth or anything. So that was a great addition to the movie. Oh yeah, so this is the benefit of the fact that I listen to both Jim Dale and Stephen Fry, guys, so I can like listen out for the differences and everything. Stephen Fry's voice as the Howler has like this crazy effect on it, which I was not expecting at all. It's not really, it's like an echoing effect. It's not like anything over the top, but yeah, I wasn't expecting like any echoing effects and everything as it's screaming at Ron about what they've done. But yes, it doesn't turn into a face, and when it's finished, in the movie, it appears to rip itself up, but in the book, it actually bursts into flames and just burns itself out. Presumably, it can't burn anything else that's around it. But yeah, subtle differences. I'm absolutely fine with how the movie did that, though. I thought it was great. Yeah, and the letter does say about how Arthur is facing an inquiry at work because of it all, and Harry instantly feels terrible about it. This is the great thing about being able to hear what's going on inside of Harry's mind, guys, because I don't think that Harry seemed to really care in the movie about what the envelope was saying. There was never any look of embarrassment on Harry's side. It's all like on Ron, but as soon as it said about how Arthur is facing an inquiry, it says how Harry feels absolutely terrible, especially after how kind Arthur and Molly had been to him, for him to essentially repay them like that. You really get so much more about Harry's personality in the books, guys. And I've heard before that some people refer to Harry as being a bland character in Harry Potter. I think that they must be just talking about the early movies, guys. Because he does have this... I think it was in... it was Prisoner of Azkaban, where even in my reaction, I was like... I didn't really... up to this point, I hadn't thought about Harry having this edge to him at all. When he finds out about Sirius and everything. So the first two movies, he is kind of blandish, which I'm guessing was where he gets that stereotype from. But quite frankly, I think he's amazing in the books. I think he really is. So then we get Herbology with the Hufflepuffs, guys, and like I said, I've rewatched the scenes, and I thought it was the case that they'd had Herbology with Slytherin. But I've rewatched it, guys. Justin is there. He doesn't say anything, but he is in the background, so that is a Hufflepuff there. But also in the movie you have Ravenclaw there as well. Whereas this specifically says that it's herbology with the Hufflepuffs, obviously with the head of Hufflepuffs, Madame Sprout. It's interesting. It refers to as Professor Sprout at least once here. I thought it was always Madame Sprout. Same thing, same person. A doobie doobie doo. So when they arrive at the greenhouses, they see Sprout carrying some bandages away from the Whomping Willow, which is kind of ridiculous. You can't imagine a Whomping Willow like all bandaged up and everything. But to be fair, it had been hit by a car, so it's quite serious. And of course, Lockhart is there again, which is just amazing. There's a nice little detail that Harry remarks in his head about how Professor Sprout's fingernails would make Petunia faint, which is just hilarious. But now we have this scene with Gilderoy, guys, and I think this is my favourite scene from the book so far. But it's not at all in the movie, which is crazy. It's not in the movie in the slightest. None of this thing about, the want of fame and publicity, I don't think is even talked about in the slightest in the movie, which is... the thing is, Kenneth Branagh was amazing as Gilderoy, and I thought that he was given a good amount of time, but this chapter is just amazing with Gilderoy. He keeps on going, Harry, 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 in a really patronising way. It's just amazing. When he says to... He says to the class that he doesn't want anyone to think that he's better at herbology than Professor Sprout. It's just because he's met loads of them, which is such a dick. It's basically saying, I don't want you to think this thing, which I clearly want you to think. He's just brilliant. And he takes Harry away into a side room and basically closes the door in Madame Sprout's face, which is outrageous. She's clearly notably annoyed with Lockhart, because it says that she's not her normal cheery self at all in this guy's presence. And yeah, I love this whole thing where he thinks that Harry has the buzz for publicity, and Harry's just in complete silence during these scenes. There's two scenes with the two of them, and Harry doesn't say a single thing in it. It's just amazing. He's just having to listen to Gilderoy going on and on. And he says that when he was 12, he was just as much of a nobody as Harry was. You definitely get the feeling that he is sticking the boot in, I think is the right term, in certain points, guys. And I'm wondering, it's in the next chapter, but I'm wondering if he had something to do with getting Harry, if he had something to do with the punishment that Harry's being given. Because of what happens in the next chapter with Hagrid. We'll get onto that when we can, though. But yeah, he's clearly a bit jealous that someone else is getting publicity. Not someone's getting more publicity, but someone else might be getting publicity. He's clearly that much of a narcissist, which is fantastic. He mentions being Witch Weekly Smile of the Year award winner 5 times in a row. He mentions it here, and he actually mentions it later on in the classroom as well. And that line is in the movie as well, which I had to just go and double check. But he mentions it twice in this one chapter. I just love this. I just love this interaction. I say interaction, it wasn't interaction, it's a monologue. It's Harry in silence listening to Gilderoy talking complete trash. So he then goes off again, and we have the Mandrake scene from the movie here. It is slightly different. It does sound like the greenhouse has... the greenhouse sounds a lot more interesting than in the movie. In the movie, it's quite basic. To be fair, it's only a short scene, but it sounds like there's umbrella-sized plants overhanging them, and spiky plants moving around and everything. Whereas it's a lot more calmer in this one scene. Like I say, it's only a very short scene, so it's not a big deal. There's actually a pile of different types of earmuffs that they can go and grab, and it says how people are trying to grab them before there's anything where everything apart from pink and fluffy ones were left over. That's not the case in the movie. They already have their earmuffs, and they're basically all looking very, very plain. They're definitely a lot more effective though, because it says when Harry puts the earmuffs on, And Sprout brings out what appears to be an extremely ugly baby, as it says in Harry's mind. I think that it says that it apparently is screaming. And so these earmuffs are working a hell of a lot better, because in the movie, not only does everyone like go, ah, even if they're wearing earmuffs, they can also hear what Sprout is saying, which doesn't really make much sense. There's this incredibly loud noise, but they're still able to hear what Sprout is actually saying. And so, and before they put the earmuffs on, Sprout does say something like, if you need any help, attract my attention and I'll come to you. As in, like, you know, as in you won't be able to just say Madame Sprout, because she'll be having the earmuffs on as well. So that, a little change, but again, not a big deal. There are some bigger changes though. I mean, Neville does not pass out in this scene, which is such a... I was fully expecting that to be there. I mean, Draco isn't even there, but there is no one that... I don't think anyone actually gets bitten by one of the mandrakes, I don't think. But yeah, then we are introduced to Justin, who seems like an absolutely lovely chap. He's bigging up everyone. He's put into a group of 4 with Hermione, Ron, and Harry, and literally the first thing he does, he gives each of them a compliment. I don't think it really soaks in for Harry and Ron, just because that's what they're like. They're kind of untrusting to people that they don't know. Whereas Hermione is actually beaming when, like, Justin's like saying, oh, yeah, it's always the top of the class and everything. He just seems like a really lovely guy. And I would have liked to have more Justin in the movie. I think that even in my reaction, I say about how Justin was basically a guy to say, hi, I'm going to go and get wrecked in a second. See ya. And he just goes off and gets taken out by the thing which has not been named yet in this. But yeah, he sounds like a really decent chap, though. And so that's really nice to see Justin this early in it. Like I say, he is in that scene, but so's the rest of the school, though. Like I say, even Ravenclaw are actually in the background in that scene. So yeah, Madame Sprout gives Hermione 10 points, which went after, and that is in the movie. That does seem like a lot, but she basically gives an absolute textbook description of what these mandrakes are like. Justin mentions that he was meant to go to Eton, which, if you don't know, guys, is a very posh private school in the UK. And says how his mother was very disappointed. So obviously she's the muggle in the family, you'd imagine. Unless, no, yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's half wizard, maybe? Maybe he is the first of his kind, much like Colin. I can't remember. I mean, that would make sense as well, actually, with what happens. A doobie doobie doo. Yes, he's just absolutely lovely. He has curly hair as well, which is a very, different change in the movie. But so Hermione is always reading a book, which is one of Gilderoy's books, and she is clearly a very big fan of Gilderoy. Now, this is pretty different than in the movie, guys. We do have her, clearly having a crush on Gilderoy in the classroom. Aside from that, I think that's literally the only scene where she has any interest in him. Even in the library, I don't remember her having a fixation of him. But that is definitely different here. I mean, she's defending him to the hilt. I don't know if she would have done already. I think I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Actually, yes, no, because that's right. Justin is talking about Gilderoy and saying how he was once cornered in a phone box, and I did think, well, would Justin know what a phone box is? But of course, as he's not pure blood, he absolutely would. And so, because I can't remember. I know that Arthur goes inside a phone box, doesn't he? But that's like to get into the Ministry. But he's been asking Harry about phones and everything in previous chapters in the books and everything, so that was just a little note that I made. But of course, as Justin isn't pure blood, he would know about these things. And yes, no one passes out, guys, which is obviously very different from that scene. So now they're over in McGonagall's classes. They're trying to turn beetles into buttons, which seems like that seems smaller I mean, the thing is, it doesn't necessarily mean that the spell is any easier, but it does seem like lower stakes than what they were doing in the previous year, or book, I should say, compared to what they were doing then. And now this is what what I was saying about a product earlier on. This is my mistake, guys. I thought it said that Ron had used sellotape to tape his wand back together. Now that is a brand. That's why on TV programs they tend to say sticky back plastic rather than sellotape. But no, it actually says spellotape, which is a terrible pun. But yes, that is so incredibly cheesy. So presumably has some sort of enchantment on it to stick things together. It's not doing a very good job with Ron's wand though. In fact, Ron's wand is actually smoking whenever he tries to do the spells in the classroom. Harry actually suggests to Ron, why don't you write home and get a new wand? And like Ron says, no, that he doesn't want another howler, which definitely explains. Because I think during Chamber, I did keep on saying, why don't you just go and get another wand and everything? We can establish that maybe that just isn't the option at Hogwarts. Maybe in Hogsmeade you can, but they're too young to go there anyway. And there's also the option of potentially writing home and getting another one. But Ron says he doesn't want to because he doesn't want another earful about, actually bringing his wand as well as everything else that happened that night. So, yeah. Again, nice bit of info for Ron there. Hermione's been drawing hearts around Gilderoy's lessons, guys, which is such a stereotypical girl crush thing to do. Just very interesting. Like I say, there is that one scene in the classroom, which we'll be coming up to soon, where in the movie she's clearly gushing about him. I think that's it. I don't think she gushes about him at all. I'd want to go back and watch the movie again to see if she's constantly reading his book, but I'm pretty certain that's not even in the movie either. So Colin introduces himself, says how his dad is just is a milkman. And how it was really awesome to find out of all the crazy things that Colin could do. How it all explained because he's a wizard. Now in the movie he uses the term mental, and I don't think that word has been used at all yet, which is very interesting, guys. Because I think particularly in the 90s, to refer to something as being strange or bad, I guess, or strange-ish, baddish. Referring to it as being mental is a very common thing in the UK, especially for that age group. But I don't think the word mental has actually been used at all in the books. And we know that Ron and Harry use that term a lot in the movies, but I'll be interested to listen out to when they actually first do in the book, because I'm pretty certain they have not done up to this point. Oh yes, is this here? I think I might be getting a bit ahead of myself. No, that's right. Colin says how... is he okay to take a picture of Harry? And even Harry notices how the camera just appears to just be like a normal Muggle camera. But then Colin specifically says that another student has told him if he develops the photos in a specific potion, then it will start to move. That is awesome information. That's fascinating. That is specifically it's specifically a potion that's doing it, and the camera can just be normal. Loved that line. That was a very nice little bit of detail. Fills in a blank, I really like that. So Draco comes along, as he always does, with Crabbe and Goyle, and accuses Harry of giving out photos, which is such a pathetic, bullish, stupid thing to do. And Colin Blum steps up and says that he's just jealous to Draco. It's very brave of Colin. And very interestingly, Ron quietly says, "Eat slugs, Malfoy." And I thought, oh, what is he gonna do the spell now? He doesn't. It's very interesting, guys. That comes later on. But yeah, he actually says, "Eat slugs" here, but it doesn't. I think he might be about to do the spell, but then Hermione interrupts, stopping him because Gilderoy is on his way. And Draco does an impression of Molly, which is hilarious. It's just like it's a stupid voice. Because obviously he most probably was in the hall when the howler went off. So yes, Gilderoy interrupts again. And thinks that Harry's giving out photos, which is just amazing. Like, the worst possible... After the conversation that they've just had, That is the worst possible thing to happen for Harry. It really is. And Gilderoy is like saying that, some might say that it's a little bit egotistical and everything like that. But really, you get the impression, at least I get the impression, maybe I'm wrong here, but at least I get the impression that in his head he's thinking, this little brat is already giving out photographs. Why couldn't I do this when I was that age? It's brilliant. Gilderoy is just amazing in the book, guys. I loved him in the movie, but I do think he's even better in the books. And these scenes in this chapter were just hilarious. I do. So yes, he gives celeb advice, and says that, maybe in a few years, that like me, you can have a stack of photographs of yourself to hand, signed photographs of yourself to hand. So the fact that Gilderoy actually does do that now. But maybe, no, a lot of women would want them. I was going to say that maybe no one would want them. No. Gilderoy is a very successful guy. That's a very important thing to remember. But he doesn't like the fact that someone else could be potentially, moving on his patch in doing the same thing. It says how maybe in a few years it'll be fine to have signed photographs, but not yet because it's a bit egotistical. So yes, he walks into the dark arts classroom, and Harry piles Gilderoy's books in front of him, so he doesn't have to look at the real thing. It's how it words it, which is hilarious. And yes, we have this amazing scene, which was pretty well done in the movie. Ron says to Harry that how you could fry an egg on his face because he is so red. And he says how Colin and Ginny might start a Harry Potter fan club, which is amazing. Harry definitely feels really embarrassed and annoyed at Lockhart, and you just don't get that at all in the movie. Even when he's in detention with him later on in the movie, like Harry, he looks like he doesn't want to be there, but he doesn't look actually actively annoyed and embarrassed by what Gilderoy is saying. Again, it's information that you can put over in the book so well, and it may not translate that well in the movie, but I loved it. And yeah, we had this line, which now I didn't think was actually in the movie, but when I did check it, I realised it was, where he says about his 5-year in a row awards for smile, for his smile, and he says that he didn't get rid of the abandoned banshee by smiling at her, which is like a stupid joke, and no one, I feel like a couple of people smile but no one laughs at it. He actually waits for them to laugh. He does that in the movie as well, although interesting enough, I say interesting, in the movie he says them, but in the book he says her, so which makes sense. I think that banshees are meant to be, oh no, banshees are, I was thinking of hags. I was going to say hags are like tend to work on their own, don't they, apart from the ones in, are they hags in Macbeth? Which I've never read Macbeth, guys, but I made a very smart Macbeth reference during my Lord of the Rings reactions. I was very pleased with that. But yeah, no, banshees are like the screaming bird women, aren't they? I think they tend to be women. But anyway, he says them in the movie. It's her in the book. So there's something fascinating that you learn whilst watching these videos, guys, is the little differences like that. So now we have the quiz, guys, and we hear that Gilderoy's ideal birthday gift is how he's like a big believer in harmony between wizards and muggles. Very interesting, guys. Now, is that him just putting himself out there as like a incredibly gracious, nice person, or maybe he actually does want the relationship between wizards and muggles to be more harmonious? That was very interesting that would be his option, guys, because obviously for a lot of witches that would be a big turn off. So there you go. I was interested in that. So at least what he puts down in his book as being his ideal birthday wish. He does also say that he wouldn't say no to Ogden's fire whisking. Now, when I heard that name, I thought, oh, no, don't I know an Ogden? I've looked it up, guys. There are a couple of other Ogdens, but I don't think ever mentioned in the movies. And so I could be wrong there, but when I heard that name, I thought, I'm sure I know that name. But I'm guessing we will cover the other Ogdens when we come to it. yeah, he tut-tuts and the fact that no one remembers remembers favourite colour. Both Stephen Fry and Jim Dale are like, he's doing it very condescending. He's like, tut-tut, no one remembered my favourite colour. But in the movie, he's like, tut-tut, no one even remembered my favourite colour. He looks kind of annoyed that no one knows his favourite colour. Kenneth Branagh was amazing, guys. What I'm basically saying, Kenneth Branagh was perfect. I'll say that. I would have loved to see these additional scenes with Kenneth Branagh playing him. Now, I'll say this, Jim Dale and Stephen Fry do an awesome Gilderoy Lockhart voice. They really do. But I just want to see these with Kenneth Branagh. Seriously, taking Harry aside and talking about him going for publicity and everything. Some of the best part of these books so far for me, I think, guys. Seriously, I love his scenes. Seamus and Dean are at the front. They are sat next to each other in the movie, but in the book, they're actually at the front, desperately trying to not laugh at just like the quiz. They're already like you know finding it incredibly hilarious. And yeah, basically, Hermione gets full marks and everything, and gives Gilderoy gives her 10 extra points, which is 20 points in one day, guys. Now, considering, as I remember, the teams tended to get around the 300 point at the end of the year, Hermione's having a good day, guys. 20 points in one day is quite insane. That's a heck of a lot. So good for her. And yes, as soon as the Cornish pixies are revealed, Seamus just bursts out laughing. He is in the movie, he's like saying the Cornish pixies and everything, but no, in the book he just like he's trying to laugh, but as soon as they're revealed, he's like and can't control himself. Amazing. So the pixies actually smash windows and stuff like that in this, which doesn't happen in the movie, but they do lift up Neville. Very interesting that in the movie, if you really listen out, and even now, I struggle to hear what they're saying, the Cornish pixies are actually talking. Because when they hang Neville up on the chandelier, one of them says something like, "You hang there, my lover," or something like that, with a ridiculous Cornish accent. Oh man, I love Cornwall, guys, and I blooming love these pixies. I really do. Because obviously I haven't done Fantastic Beasts and everything, guys, which I'd imagine is going to be largely about creatures and everything. I think Cornish pixies at this point might be my favourite mythical creature on Harry Potter. Wow, that's quite a statement. I think they actually are. Let me know yours in the comments, guys. But right now, my favourite mythical creature is the Cornish pixies. But yes. So, obviously you could say mandrakes, but I ain't saying mandrakes. Very annoying. Then again, so the Cornish pixies. So yeah, and Neville like falls to the floor as Lockhart is like trying to use the spell, and one of the pixies steals his wand. One thing which I don't think I mentioned in my movie reaction, because they get on top of like this skeleton, like this weird, like dragon-like skeleton or something, which comes falling down, and one Cornish pixie is like going woo like that. That is a reference to Doctor Strangelove, guys, which is an excellent movie. It's very good, and yes, I can't even. Yeah, there's a scene where someone does that. You probably see, it's a very famous. Okay, there's a very famous image of someone riding a bomb with a cowboy hat going woo like that. That's from Doctor Strangelove, and the pixie guy going woo on the back of this dragon skeleton. That's a direct reference to that, but that doesn't happen in the book though. So yeah, basically from what I gather, with the pixies going nuts and everything. It goes on for a long time until the bell goes, and everyone else apart from Ron, Harry, and Hermione just get out of Dodge. And Gilderoy says, "Oh, could you put the rest back in the cage, please?" And just like closes the door, leads them to it. There is no Hermione super spell that just freezes everything. Hermione does not solve the problem in the scene in the book. In the movie, she absolutely does. She like single-handedly solves the entire situation. That doesn't happen. Again, big difference for her. She uses a freeze spell to freeze two at once as they're putting them back in the cage, but that's whilst everything's calmed right down again. So again, big difference. I ain't against it, guys, because I really like Hermione in the movie, in movies I should say, but I am preferring the fact that she's I really like the scene where she freezes all the pixies and everything. I'm not saying it's a bad scene, but I do like the fact that she doesn't single-handedly fix the problem. And even, in fact, even while she's using that spell, she again is defending Lockhart and saying, well, he's just giving us first-hand experience. I'm pretty sure, and I will have watched the rest of the movie by the end of this book, guys. I'm pretty sure there is not a single line of dialogue where she is defending Lockhart. But already in this chapter, she's done it several times. Very different. Very different. Yeah, like I say, we don't. In the book, it doesn't appear that the pixies talk. At least it doesn't mention that they do. And very interesting, this chapter ends on Ron basically saying that he doesn't believe that Lockhart has done any things in the books. Very suspicious, guys. Not suspicious, sorry. Very interesting that Ron would have that thought process. And believe it or not, he's not the only one. In these chapters, someone else says that as well, which we will get onto in the next chapter. But I loved this chapter. I can't say it's my favourite chapter because there were some amazing chapters in Philosopher's Stone. I will say at this point, we're up to chapter 7. At this point, Gilderoy Lockhart, chapter 6, is my favourite chapter from Chamber of Secrets so far. Just amazing. Gilderoy is even better in the books, and that is one thing which I actually didn't expect. Let's move on to Mudblood, chapter 7, Mudblood and Murmurs. Harry is actively trying to avoid both Colin and Professor Lockhart. The weekend is here and Harry hopes to join Ron and Hermione in visiting Hagrid, but is woken by Oliver Wood at dawn for Quidditch training. After talking tactics, Wood is furious to see the Slytherin team entering the field. Flint provides a letter from Snape giving them permission to train due to having a new seeker, Draco Malfoy. It develops that Lucius Malfoy has funded the team to all have Nimbus 2001s, and Hermione accuses Draco of buying his way into the team. Draco refers to Hermione as a Mudblood, which sets off the entire Gryffindor team, though Harry and Hermione don't know why. Ron attempts a curse on Draco, but his wand backfires. He starts belching up large slugs, which is horrible, and Hermione and Harry help him to Hagrid's hut. Hagrid asks what happened and Ron tells him about the Mudblood comment and explains what it means to Harry and Hermione. It's actually Ron who does that, not Hagrid, interestingly enough. Hagrid is understandably angry as well. Hagrid then teases Harry about giving out photographs and mentions how he has seen Ginny walking around the grounds. Harry's given detention, writing fan addresses on envelopes for Professor Lockhart, who continues to warn Harry about the life of celebrity. It's amazing. He suddenly hears a strange voice. He mentions it to Lockhart, who couldn't hear a thing. After 4 hours, he returns to the Gryffindor Tower and tells Ron of what happened. Again, that summarization, there's a lot of detail in this chapter, guys, and so that summarization seems short, but we got a lot of notes to get through. So yeah, Harry is actually avoiding Lockhart and Colin, which is hilarious. I mean, I'm sure, I would imagine he would have avoided Lockhart in the movie, but Colin, he never really gives Colin a hard time. He does in the movie, but here, you know, he does refuse to sign Colin's photograph, which is probably, you know, you could say that's rude, but at the end of the day, he doesn't want a signed photograph of him going around whilst he's being accused of handing out signed photographs, and so it does make sense. Apparently, Hedwig is still really annoyed at Harry about what happened with the car journey, which, to be fair, she's absolutely entitled to be annoyed. Ron accidentally gives Flitwick a green boil between the eyes with his wand. His wand is basically screwing up. It's very interesting, because I'm trying to remember of the times when the wand goes wrong in Chamber of Secrets, the movie, because obviously it backfires with the slug thing that we're just coming up to, and also later on in the movie. But I don't know I mean, like, putting a green ball between Flitwick's eyes is completely different from what Ron was actually doing. So it isn't just the fact that it's a backwards firing wand, it also is just doing bizarre things and smoking smoke as well. So yes, Oliver Wood, nice to see him back, is taking him off to morning practice. I do much prefer the fact that this scene takes place in the Quidditch field, because in the movie it's kind of weird where they just happen to walk past each other in a courtyard on the way to the Quidditch field. It makes a lot more sense that they actually both meet actually on the field, Slytherin and Gryffindor, I should say. Oh yeah, so Colin shows Harry the photograph of him and Lockhart, but Harry can't actually be seen. He just recognises his arm, which is getting pulled by Lockhart into the frame, which is absolutely amazing. That's brilliant. That would have been cool if it was in the movie, but alas, you can't have everything. But that was a hilarious moment. Apparently, Lockhart lets go of the arm. It's just exhausted, leaning against the white border of the photograph. I would have liked to see that. Anything in the book with Lockhart, I would have loved to see in the movie, guys, because it is all golden. It really is. And yes, Harry refuses to sign the photograph, but from our point of view, we can see why. But that scene would have never happened in the movie, I don't think, because Harry has to be the much. I wonder if maybe that the makers of the film were worried that if Harry did seem mean at any point in the first couple of movies, then kids might try and replicate that. I don't know, guys, but he certainly has so much more of an edge in the book, though. He seems like a real kid, is what I'm saying. And as they're walking towards the Quidditch pitch, Colin is following him along, obviously, and asking all these questions. And it feels like a convenient time in the book to go over old ground with the Quidditch rules, because Harry, it doesn't just say, and Harry explained the Quidditch rules to Colin. No, it actually goes through each of the rules and everything, and I feel like that's for the benefit of the reader as a refresher, or if you skip the first book, to know exactly what's going to be going on later on when we have the Quidditch games, or game at least. I don't think there's going to be more than one. We shall find out. Oh yeah, so we hear about Alicia Spinnet, which I'm pretty certain I've never heard of before. I've looked it up, and she is played by someone in the movie, but I'm pretty sure that her name has never come up till now. Even in the first book, I don't remember her name being mentioned. And George is really annoyed at Oliver, because Oliver is going on and on and on about all these new tactics and training regiments and everything, but they're not actually training, and so George actually does say, he stands up and is actually actively annoyed at the lack of actual practice. It turns out that Gryffindor actually didn't win the cup last year, guys. Now, I'm still a little bit confused about what the... so, obviously, there is a Quidditch Cup, which is separate from the House Cup. There has to be, because last year, Gryffindor did not win the Quidditch Cup. And that appears to be all down to the fact that Harry was in the hospital. How the hell can a team win without a Seeker? They literally can't, can they? The game only ends when the Seeker catches the snitch. Now, granted, the other team would still need to score enough points, but could they not say, we're not going to catch the snitch until we have enough points, forcing the other team to just forfeit? Because if you go that tactic, then that means that Gryffindor literally would have never had any chance. And the weird thing is that we do have reserve chasers. That's what Alicia is. She's a reserve chaser. So it seems bizarre that there is no reserve seeker, to me at least. And the fact that the game went ahead at all without one of the seekers, because, like I say, if the other team plays smart, there's literally no way that that Gryffindor can win. And it says that it's the worst loss that Gryffindor has had for 300 years, which seems a bit much. It seems like it's really trying to make out that Harry is like the ultimate player ever, and if he had been dead, then they would have won. But because he wasn't there, they'd lost like horrendously, for worst score for over 300 years. But that's fine though. That was an interesting little detail, the fact that they didn't actually win the cup. Oliver spots, I should say, Colin, and suggests that maybe he's a spy, which is hilarious. And then the slithering cut team comes in, guys. There are no girls on the slithering team, which is something which I didn't actually notice, but now I think back, that is absolutely the case in the movies. I think this is the only 2 slithering games that we see, isn't it? In the first 2 movies. So yeah, there's no female Slytherins on the team. I don't know why that would be the case. Maybe it's the style team. But yeah, that's interesting detail. Where was I? And yes, Snape has given a note to the team allowing for practice because of the new Seeker being Draco. Which in the book does seem a little bit... Well, not in the book, in the movie as well. It seems a little bit convenient that Draco is the new Seeker on Slytherin. It kind of makes it like he's always present in the story, if you know what I mean. But then again, he doesn't really have that much to do in compared to the first. I'm going on the movies, obviously, because I don't know what else happens in this book. But Draco doesn't have that much to do in this story, does he? Then again, he doesn't in Azkaban either, as I remember. Yeah, there's certain ones where Draco isn't really given much to do, and so maybe that's why he has made the Seeker from, like, you know, a story point. But it does seem a little bit convenient that he would be it. But also it makes sense with Lucius as well, the fact that he would essentially buy his way for his son to be on the team. Doopa-doopa-doo. And so yes, Hermione accuses Draco of buying his way into the team, which does happen in the movie, and everyone apart from Hermione and Harry goes nuts at the Mudblood comment, which is very interesting. I did note, actually, as soon as it happened, I thought, oh, Hermione didn't say anything about her being upset or anything. Another big difference in the movie, guys, the fact that she, in the book, doesn't know what it means. She says to Hagrid, obviously it's something bad, I can tell from that, and then Ron basically explains exactly what it does mean. Big difference out there. It kind of makes sense because obviously Hermione, you know, is a textbook student when it comes to, you know, knowledge and courses and everything like that. But when it comes to slang and, you know, being a witch and wizard and everything, she doesn't know that much about. So that does make more sense in the book version, in my opinion. Blah, 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 blah. Where was I? So yes, and then Ron does the curse, or making the slugs come up. It does say that they're large slugs, but I don't think they're meant to be, because the ones in the movie are big, guys, and also they change in size as they come out in the book, but in the book they are absolutely huge. Whenever I come up to that bit, I had to just look away because it's absolutely disgusting, guys, and it's just as disgusting in the book version. Although Ron is able to talk a lot more, because like I say, he's the one who explains what Mudblood actually means, which again is a big change. Because Hagrid filling in Harry what Mudblood means, and then talking to Hermione about not letting it affect her or anything. That's a big scene for Hagrid. And I remember the actor Robbie Coltrane and Emma Watson during the 20th anniversary talking specifically about how important that scene was for their relationship and everything. That doesn't happen in the book, guys. Like I say, it is largely Ron who's telling him about what Mudblood means. Hagrid does, you know, big Hermione up. Like I said, there ain't a spell that Hermione can't cast and everything, and that does mean a lot to her in the book. But there's no sweet moment where he really comforts Hermione. That's purely in the movie version, and I really liked that scene in the movie, and so that is an unexpected change. But I am for that. I am for that. Oh, I've just skipped the fact that when they arrive at the hut, Gilderoy is on his way out. I love how present Gilderoy is throughout all these chapters, guys. It's amazing. He's like always there, and he's like been trying to suggest tips on how to do different things. Is it get Carpies out of the well? I think that Hagrid says, which is just amazing. Because this is the Gilderoy, we obviously know, is, you know, not completely honest, but he's really putting it out there that he does know all this stuff, where, you know, or maybe, then again, maybe he thinks that he does know it. See, this is the weird thing with Gilderoy, is that maybe something with the memory has happened before or something. I don't know. That's speculation for later on in the book, but yes, I do love the fact that he seems to be, like, omnipresent all the time. Yeah, my notes are a little bit muddled up. I think it's because when the group arrives, they then talk with Hagrid about the Mudblood situation, and then start talking about Gilderoy again. And so, yeah, Hagrid is complaining about Gilderoy, and again, Hermione steps in and says, "Oh, he's doing his best," and like he's clearly the best person because Dumbledore appointed him to the role. And then we get this, guys. This is I was not expecting at all. Hagrid says that he was the only person who applied, including Snape, which obviously, you know, we kind of know why if we've watched the rest of the movies. He's the only person who applied because bad things seem to be happening to the Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers, and how some people think it's even jinxed. So that was very interesting hearing that this early on, guys, because I thought I don't know when I first learned that there is something going on when it comes to the Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers not being long term, but it certainly was. It certainly was not this early on in the story, guys. It was like at least a couple of movies down the line. So very interesting hearing that there is this theory that there is a jinx going on, or at least a rumor, or like people are at least saying that it is the case. So yes, Hermione hasn't heard of the term Mudblood before, which is a big difference, guys. It really changes her character. It really does. I ain't gonna complain about the movie version because I thought it was a really nice scene with Hagrid and Hermione, but that just ain't in the books at all. So it is a big change. And yes, Ron is the one who explains it all. He keeps on burping with more slugs coming up, which is just disgusting. He says that he gives Neville as an example of a pureblood that's still useless, which is nice. I guess he's just trying to make Hermione feel better. And he says that if we as wizards and witches, if we hadn't married Muggles, we would have died out. Now, I don't fully know if that's the case or not. I don't see a reason why that would be the case. I don't know. That was an interesting line. Let me know your thoughts on that line if there's anything more behind that, guys. But that did seem like a strange sentence. I mean, yeah, it's very interesting. Harry tries to add to the conversation, but has been eating some treacle fudge that Hagrid's given him and actually cemented his teeth shut, which is very nasty. He's going to have some nasty fillings on that. And then Hagrid, jokingly says, "Oh, Harry, how come I haven't had one of your signed photographs?" Which then Harry, breaks the cement on his teeth and gives him an earful. He's angry at Hagrid, actually, because Hagrid is really winding him up here, and Harry's actually telling him to shut up and stuff, which is hilarious. Hagrid talks more about Lockhart's visit. And says when Lockhart brought up the photograph situation, Hagrid tells him that Harry's more famous than him anyway, which obviously really sets him up. I'm wondering, we'll come into my theory, guys, and I want to know your thoughts on it. But what happens in the next scene, if that's relevant to that line? And when Hagrid says that he hasn't read any of Lockhart's book, Lockhart then actually left, according to Hagrid, because of that. Which I'm not sure is true, because Lockhart... Oh, maybe Lockhart... When Lockhart was leaving, he started talking about, getting rid of, the kelpies in the well or anything. But yeah, apparently the reason why he left was because Hagrid said he hasn't read any of his books, which is amazing. They go and check on some pumpkins that Hagrid's been growing, and... Harry asks him, how they're getting so big, and, Hagrid, says that he's been giving them some encouragement, which obviously means magic, and Hermione, looks at him in a way which is half, It says a face of a face between disapproval and amusement, which is excellent, which is nice. It's nice to see the fact that aspect of Hermione, because right now we've kind of reset with Hermione to how she was at the start of the first book at this point, whereas we know that her character really developed in that first book, so it's nice to see the fact that she kind of finds it funny, but is also kind of disapproving. Because, like I said at the start of the last chapter, where Harry comes in and she's like, "Morning," but Harry knows that she's still really angry at what he'd done with the flying car. Hermione's great. I really do like her book, Hermione. A doobie-doobie-doo. And yes, Hagrid mentions that Ginny has been walking around the grounds, which is kind of the first half clue to what happens later on in the book, I presume, unless it's different. But that is like, that little line is a little throw-in line, which upon rereading, you think, that's why that was going on. So yeah, that was nice. And yes, Hagrid says she was probably looking around for Harry to see if she could get one of the signed photographs. Harry shouts "shut up" at him, and Ron starts laughing, and slugs just go everywhere. Which is, I'm so glad that didn't happen in the movie, guys, because I probably would have had to switch off the movie at that point. Yes, that's really disgusting. But like I say, Ron is able to talk a lot. He's able to talk a lot more than he was in the movie version. So McGonagall gives out the detentions, guys, and Ron is given detention with Filch in the trophy room, but polishing the trophies and everything. And Harry is given detention with Lockhart, helping him with fan mail. Now, in the last book, the detentions were given in groups, because obviously they all went off with Hagrid into the woods, even Draco being there. It's very interesting that in this case the detention has been split, because that wasn't the case in the first movie, and they knew that Ron and Harry were friends, and so there was no bunking off or anything like that. It's very interesting that they split up, and I wonder if we are meant to, this is my theory, guys, I wonder if we are meant to put 2 and 2 together, that because of what Hagrid said, because Lockhart thinks that Harry is giving out photographs, and after what Hagrid said, maybe Lockhart said, "Oh, by the way, I'll take Harry's detention. I'll supervise him for detention, and he can do something for me." So he's working beneath for Lockhart's standum. For me, in my head, that's absolutely what happened, guys. The fact that he's trying to put Harry down by forcing him to work on it, because it's got, I don't know. I was going to say that because Lockhart wouldn't want necessarily people to be helping with this his fan mail, because he loves himself so much that he would want to. But no, that's not true. He would want other people to know of his fan mail as well. So I don't know, guys. In my head, that's why. That's why Harry is specifically put with Lockhart, and Ron has a different one, because Lockhart went to McGonagall and said, "Hey, I'll take this," with his secret intention of making Harry feel small. That's my theory, guys. Let me know in the comments if you think it's legit or not. So yes, I noticed that detention is always done at night. Now, as I remember from the movie version, Ron and Hermione come looking for Harry to go to the feast, and so this isn't the middle of the night. Obviously, in the punishment from the first movie and book is actually in the middle of the night, whereas I guess it's meant to be late, mid-evening when Harry is done with the fan mail. I'm wrong. It's not always done at night, because by the time Harry gets back to Gryffindor Tower, the fat lady's still there and people are still awake. Ron's getting back, so yeah, they're obviously not done in the middle of the night. That was obviously just for the first one, but they tend to be done in the evening. And having it on a weekend sucks, guys. Detention should be locked to during the week, in my opinion. I don't know what it was like at your school, but detention was never... maybe there were weekend detentions. I don't know, let me know. I mean, obviously, it's different if you're actually living at the school, but... yeah, that does suck for Ron and Harry. We have this bizarre line, which is in the movie as well, where Lockhart says, "Celebrity is as celebrity does." Now, I've thought about it, guys, and I, for the life of me, have literally no idea what the hell he's talking about. If there is actually a legit meaning to what Lockhart is saying, then do let me know. But from what I can tell, that is just utter gibberish. And at the end, or obviously after Harry's heard this voice and everything, I guess saying "come to me," isn't it? Yeah, Lockhart obviously, thinks that he's just getting tired and everything. And as Harry's leaving, he says, "Don't expect a treat like this every time that you get detention." So maybe I don't know, because that line would suggest that he genuinely thought that Harry would enjoy it. So maybe it wasn't this like petty revenge about Harry's fandom. But part of my headcanon is absolutely that he's doing it to get at Harry because Harry's well known. Not as well known as Lockhart, but even then, Lockhart is threatened by him. Lockhart's just brilliant. He is such a good character. And yes, there's no scene where Ron and Hermione like turn up, like saying, "Oh, we were looking for you" or whatever. Which I think even in my reaction to the movie, I was like, "What the hell are you doing here?" It did seem a bit weird that they would just happen to be in that corridor, and the chapter ends without them finding Mrs. Norris, guys, which is kind of a shock. So Harry just goes back to Gryffindor Tower and basically fills in Ron with what happened. Big difference, guys. Big difference in pacing, and so that was something which I really was not expecting. And I've looked at the chapter names, and we've actually got 2 chapters until we get to a chapter called. Chapter 9 is called Writing on the Wall. We have another chapter called the Death Day Party before then. So that's interesting. I think that this might be much like the scene where Draco tricks Ron and Harry into going out at night in Philosopher's Stone in the book. How that was just completely cut from the movie. I'm wondering if the next chapter is going to be one of those. And then we're going to be getting onto the Mrs. Norris scene. Very interesting. But either way, that's my notes done. This is going to be another huge movie, but now let's get over to your comments over in the book club. Okay, so welcome to the Harry Potter book club, guys. This is what you can be a part of on the Patreon, guys. Like I say, you can pay as little as you want. There's no minimum pledge. And be a part of this discussion. You can leave your comments in. There are like some small rules about, the lengths of the comments, something like that. But these rules are very, very like flexible, so don't feel like you have to follow like the letter of the law or anything. But we got a lot of comments to get through, guys. I've noticed this time possibly more than usual, but no, I think so very often people will leave a comment, and then you see here we got replies, which is great that you guys are interacting with each other. Always keep it friendly and everything. Everyone has like different opinions about different aspects of these stories, but from what I've seen, it's all been completely friendly, which is really good. You guys are amazing. I love seeing you guys interacting with each other and having these discussions and everything. When it comes to how I cover them on the video, I will be reading the top comments only, not the replies, if that's okay with you. I don't understand how I've managed to make this video so long, guys. It's getting up there as long as the previous one, and in that chapter we did 4. In that video we did 4 chapters. Granted, 2 of those chapters were slightly shorter, but either way. I will say now, I'm dyslexic, guys, so I apologise about my reading, and also my pronunciations of names are also terrible because of my dyslexia. But let's get off with, let's start off with Michelle. First comment, thank you very much. Sirius Snape catching Harry and Ron cracks me up every time. I would have given anything to see that in the film. I love Snape's humour and sarcasm. I completely agree with you, Michelle. I'm wondering if that's because in the Philosopher's Stone, we didn't have that moment with Filch catching them, because that was a book exclusive, right? Oh, maybe it wasn't. But yeah, we have him like saying, "Oh man, you are in trouble," in the first book, and that gets moved over to the Chamber of Secrets movie instead. But that is great though, and he is being very, very sarcastic and everything. Yeah, he's very, like I say, that scene in the movie, he looks genuinely upset about the Whomping Willow. He looks like he's like his best mate or anything, whereas Book Snape is definitely a lot more cool and crueler in this version. Next, don't forget to watch the relevant scenes from the movie first. I did do that. Thank you very much for that comment. That will save you at least 15 minutes of wondering if that was in the movie. I know. Last video, I did say that a lot, didn't I? Where I was going, I'm not sure if that was actually in the movie or not. Yeah, I was doing that a lot last time, so I do apologise about that. I did do it this time, particularly with Chamber of Secrets. I really need to refresh my memory, but I will be doing that ongoing. Or things to the movie from memory that were actually in the movie. Otherwise, looking forward to reading through. Keep it up and enjoy. Thank you very much, Nix. Yes, I appreciate that reminder. Max, there is so much I want to say about these chapters, but I'll just keep it to one thing. I really love how the book had Hermione not know what Mudblood means. That's a huge difference, because that makes sense. Being Muggle-born, she would not have known that. Plus, it gives more to Ron's character to explain that word, and explaining it. He is a pureblood, but it means nothing to him. That's actually a very good point. That's a very good point. I didn't think the fact that Ron is a pureblood, but is absolutely it doesn't mean anything to him that half-bloods or mudbloods are different in any way. Didn't like he take a shot at Neville though. Yeah, that's very true. He does like say how he's a pureblood and is kind of useless. Yes, but that is so true about how Ron is in that scene, showing that it doesn't mean anything to him. That's actually a very, very good point. And like I say, Hermione knows all the textbook stuff about wizards and wizards. She doesn't know about the life of the real life of wizards and witches. So that is I do like the movie scene, but it's very interesting to see it this way as well. Lockhart's quiz cracks me. Oh, sorry. Lovegood says Lockhart's quiz cracks me up so much. It's so annoying. It's funny. That basically describes Lockhart right there. The one problem I had with the movie about these chapters is that Neville faints during the mandrakes in the movie because it's funny, and Neville is Neville, but Neville's one big strength is herbology. Very true, of course. He blew me carrying that cactus around, didn't he? Later on in the movies, I just think that did him dirty. I agree, and he could also I say. It's not the same, but obviously the Draco getting bitten by the Mandrake as well is not in the book. It's true. Is that the first time we see Neville? That is the first scene where we see Neville in the movie. Now in the book, he has already been there. No, it's not. When was the Howler scene? The Howler scene was before the Mrs. Sprout's lesson, wasn't it? So that wasn't the first time that we saw Neville. Or was it? I feel like it. This is the thing, guys. These scenes are definitely switched around with when they are. I have a feeling that in the movie, the Mandrake scene is before the Howler scene. I'm going to look this up. Yeah, I think I'm right, guys. So, the Howler scene is the morning after the car incident. I'm pretty sure in the book. Whereas the first thing that happens, the first thing that happens after the Snape's office scene in the movie is the herbology class, and so they definitely did switch that around. So in the movie, it's the first time we're seeing Neville, and so maybe they thought, because Neville is this klutz character, and they've switched the scenes around, maybe it's best if we have a funny moment for him then. But that's so true about the fact that, you know, the thing is, Neville isn't just useless. It's the fact that he doesn't appear to represent the braver side of Gryffindor. That's the key part to it. So it's not that he's just useless at being every single type of wizard. And as you say, the one type of wizardry that he should be all over is herbology. So that's a very good point, Lovegood. Very well made. Isis, I'll take my chance now and to just tell you. First, stay cool, please. Hydrate. It is, yeah. I put this blog out when it was extremely hot, but yeah, it's a bit cooler now. Take good care of yourself and loved ones. Second, I look forward to the one and a half or 2 hour lol upload for these book reviews. Yeah, this is going to be well over 2 hours. 2 hours, I'm afraid. Although no, you seem to like it. I enjoy your company. I love hearing your thoughts about Harry Potter experience. I cannot wait for books 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, which from what I gather is where the changes were. I'm saying this. Thank you very much, Isis, for the comment. From what I gather, those are the books which have the big changes in. So I'm looking forward to them as well. Thank you very much for your very kind, supportive comment, Isis. Natalie, I love how. I love that the trip to Hogwarts is so much more realistic in the book. Hot, sticky, uncomfortable. It's very true. That Harry's shirt's sticking to him and everything. Not to eat other than nothing to eat other than toffee or drink. Not the quick, cheery trip it was in the movie. I know, Natalie. No, that's very, very true. This is definitely a lot more realistic, especially if you're driving from London to Scotland, anywhere in Scotland. That ain't gonna be like a barrel of laughs the entire way. It's gonna be a long, dry, hot summer journey. That being said, the movie scene is charming. It really is charming. It's very different, and it does take away the whole monotony that Harry and Ron are feeling. And also, you know what? It takes, you know what? I feel I should have mentioned this earlier on. When the car started to come down in the movie, I for a second didn't think that the car was getting tired. At no point did it suggest, and yet in the book, it straight away is suggesting the car is getting tired mid-journey. And so when the car started to nosedive, I thought it was because Ron was being an idiot, and that's why the car kicked Ron and Harry out, because he wanted to be back in control. No, the car was exhausted. So yeah, that's something which I didn't pick up on in the movie because that scene is so cheery. That being said, it is a great scene. It is a great scene. Hedwig's eyes are like going, woo! When he sees the train is a bit ridiculous. But it's a good scene, though, in my opinion. But you're absolutely right, Natalie. Ari, the films have a tendency to give Ron's iconic scenes from the book to Hermione in the films, yeah? And Hagrid in this one's case as well. Ron starts getting sidelined in the films, specifically, which is a disservice to his such a loyal friend who's actually useful and not just comic relief. It's very true, and I mean, again, it's not Grint's fault and everything, but like his voice and his facial expressions that he's pulling, like during the Whomping Willow scene and everything like that, it's like, oh no, and everything like that. Whereas you don't really get that from the book version. He's not like terrified and like, what's going to happen voice, which he does do a few times in the movies. That being said, I think it's hilarious as well, but it does take away and is a disservice, like you say, to how loyal and useful a friend he is. It's so true. Ron explaining the term Mudblood makes a lot more sense considering he grew up in the Wizarding world. I find it unlikely that Hermione would have come across the slur in such a book. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying about, yeah, that's so true, Ari. Now, I think I assumed when Hermione's reaction to the word was that potentially she'd either heard it before, not directly, but maybe another half-blood had told her about what had happened with, like, maybe a Slytherin before and everything. But even, it sounds like even for a Slytherin to use that term, which I know we do have other Slytherins later in the series using it, but even for a Slytherin to use it is pretty messed up, especially the way that the Gryffindor team freaking reacted to it. So that's, I think, what I assumed. There is no way that when you learn about, you know, racial troubles and things like that at school, guys, they're not telling you the lingo. There is not a book that would say, and wizards call their mudbloods or anything like that, because, you know, the people running Hogwarts are going to know that a lot of the students at this place are not purebloods, and so yeah, it's not something that she would have picked up in the in library, I should say. Ari, I completely agree with you. Great point. Benjamin, people always say there is no Ravenclaw representation throughout the series. Well, with Lockhart, there is more than more than we ever need. Amazing. This guy is just hilarious, a complete idiot, true but hilarious. He is absolutely brilliant. He really is brilliant, guys, and I'm pretty sure that I made him my character of Chamber of Secrets. I think I must have done, but he is even better in the books, guys. He's that, like I've said it already, I'll say it again. That scene where he's, like, you know, taking Harry aside before the herbology class, and, like, you know, Harry, is my favourite scene so far in Chamber of Secrets. I'm just gonna say it. Thank you very much for a great comment, Benjamin. Dara. It's always nice to see these returning names, guys. Thank you so much for putting up and waiting for me on these. I haven't taken a long time off because I had to take a break because I was very, very burnt out. So it's lovely to see that you guys are still here holding on for me. I'm so sorry that it does take me so long to get to them. As always, I'm interested in what you think about Snape. And no, he still is not at his nastiest. Yeah, I mean, like the earlier comment was saying, how sarcastic and how enjoying he is of having Ron and Harry in the palm of his hand when they arrive at Hogwarts. Very different from the movie one. I mean, I always enjoy Snape. He's a brilliant character. But yes, we will find out how nasty he goes. Now, I know that I always have trouble with this one. Yaley? I'm so sorry. I'm terrible at reading names. I'm sure you have noticed what Ginny has almost forgot at home. Imagine what a nice year we could have had. Or maybe she would have asked Molly to send it, and then question would have been raised. That's a very good point. I'm sorry, it's because I've been sat in this very hot room for a long time. It's not the way that you've written it. It's my reading. I'm afraid. So that's very interesting. So when Ginny says about her diary being left at home, you're saying that it was the book, Tom Riddle's diary. Oh my goodness, I did not make that connection at all. Fantastic. Imagine what a nice year it would have been. Or maybe she would have asked Molly to send it and then questions would have been raised. Who knows? That is a very interesting alternative universe. If Arthur had said, "Oh no, we'll have to send it to you," when Ginny noticed that she'd left it. But then again, it's Ginny's first year, and Arthur's such that he would want Ginny to have any comfort that she's asking for. So. Yeah, I don't think they would have turned. I don't think they would have carried on with that without the diary. Tammy, I just love the detail we get of Lockhart in the book. like him annoying the other teachers, yes, with tips nobody asked for, or him thinking Harry is emulating him, which is why he advises Harry on how to become a celebrity. It's amazing. Because let's face it, surviving a killer curse is not nearly as important as winning the Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award 5 years in a row. Absolutely, Tammy, I'm completely with you. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, he does it in the movie. When they find Mrs. Norris, which we're not up to yet, he does like say, oh, I know the perfect counter spell for this and everything like that. He is a know-all, and obviously that comes back later on as well. But yeah, we're getting a lot more of that, and Mrs. Sprout not being a usual happy self because of this guy, and the fact that Hagrid's like winding him up and everything. It's brilliant. It's so nice to see this extra level. Also, I find it funny that Hermione has a huge crush on Lockhart, which makes her not pick up on how incompetent he is, whereas Ron and Hagrid see right through him. Exactly my point, the fact that they are already saying that they think he's a charlatan. I think chapter 6 is the first time they talk to someone from Hufflepuff. What was your first impression of Justin Finch-Fletchley? I can't say his full name. Student-wise, yes, because we also met the monk in the first book, don't we? And obviously Madame Sprout in this. But when it comes to students, yes, this is and it was in the movie as well. The first time we actually like have a Hufflepuff. I think he's great. I think he's really great. He's obviously very, very posh, and the fact that he's meant to be going to Eton and everything like this. But the fact that he is instantly complimentary to the three is just awesome. That's the kind of Hufflepuff representation you want, guys. I thought that was really awesome. I absolutely adored it, Tammy. So yeah, thank you very much for your comment. Josh. I would say that Chamber of Secrets is the most accurate movie adaptation of the 7 books. Very interesting. It still bugs me that Ron and Ginny suffer from complete character assassinations throughout the movies. Yeah, I'm already getting that Ginny is not getting the airtime that she kind of needs, you know? That she gets in the book that she doesn't get in the movie is what I'm saying. The sad part is the casting was so great, but many actors were forced to play one-dimensional versions of the characters. I completely agree with that. You can't always blame the actor, guys. Liam Neeson is a fantastic actor. My goodness, is he wooden in Phantom Menace. In my opinion. Maybe we should do a Star Wars discussion sometime. I loved the movies growing up, but as an adult, I can only see the flaws and missed opportunities for the cast to flex their acting muscles because something was cut that would have been great to see on screen. That's a shame, Josh. It's a shame it's a shame that you can't enjoy the movies as much as you used to be able to. Because they are still great movies, guys. I think you appreciate from my reactions. I loved these movies, and it is a shame if if finding out the actual backstory for these characters affects you to that level. And I agree. I mean, the fact is, she was very young when she was chosen for the role of Ginny. Obviously, she would have had to have been. I don't think it's her fault at all. I think that the scenes that she gets, I don't think anyone could do. That sounds like I'm being mean to her. I really don't mean to, guys. What I'm saying is, as Harrison Ford once said in a filming of Empire Strikes Back, you can write this S, George, because you can write this S, George, but you sure can't say it. Actors aren't miracle workers. If they're not given the opportunity, then they're not going to shine through to their potential. So I get that, Josh. I do agree with you as well. I can see a lot of people. I can imagine people getting very annoyed with how Ron was treated, but by the end of it, after Deathly Hallows Part 1, he was my favourite character from that movie. I find Rebecca. Thank you very much for your comments. I find reading chapter 5 from Snape's perspective really quite sad. He spent the entire entirety of the school year working his butt off to protect Harry, yes, from which he got no thanks from anyone, least of all Harry. Now the school year has been underway for 5 minutes, and Harry pulled his very James-like stunt, which risks both his own safety and security of the Wizarding World, which is incredibly important to Snape. Then the first thing he hears from Harry and Ron is that they hope that he's ill or been fired, and that everyone hates him. They literally say, yeah, everyone hates him, like that. Nice. Rebecca, that is such a great point. That really is. I mean, it's breaking the us knowing the full story. That really makes you see that scene in a different way. James-like stunt. I, for a second, didn't think about that. That is a great point. Thank you very much for your comment. Jacob. I love how scared the Howler Ron and Neville are, because it's so true that for a 12-year-old being screamed at from a parent would be the most awkward and embarrassing thing. Exactly. It being in front of other students has got to be the worst aspect of it. Like, by far, the fact that everyone else is saying it. And that's why Draco's making fun of, like, doing an impression of Molly later on in these chapters. Very good point. Slimer? Slimeril? Slimeril, maybe. I think I'm reading that right. I love the Lockhart quiz and Ron's reaction of stunned disbelief at Lockhart's outrageousness. Yes, it does say that Ron is just like in shock in the lesson of how outrageous he's being. Mudbloods and Murmurs is a very important chapter when one stops to think about it. It's the first real setting up of the whole pure blood versus other conflict that plays throughout the story. Love that Hagrid's the one who cheers Hermione up a bit. Absolutely. That is true. This is the first time, isn't it? We have Lucius in the book club talking about standards and everything. But this is the first time that the students... It's proper first-hand abuse. It's absolutely okay. And it's absolutely leading up, like you say, to the future of the story. And Hagrid does cheer up Hermione. In the movie, it's a lot more of an emotional... He's really being very sweet to her. Whereas in the book, he's just like saying there's nothing that Hermione can't do to cheer her up. And it really does cheer her up. So yeah, it's good that Hagrid is the one to do that. I like it. Pray the guy. I really wish the movie had shown the picture of Colin Creevey took of Harry and Lockhart. I completely agree. The description of Lockhart, you see, this is the problem because we don't see that aspect of Harry. I will finish your comment. The description of Lockhart, whoever tried and failed to keep Harry inside the frame, is pretty funny. It's hilarious. Now, my only thing that I'll say is the Harry that would do as... The Harry that would be desperately trying to get away from Lockhart is not the Chamber of Secrets movie Harry. Because at this stage, Harry is still a bit too clean-cut. Whereas in the book, that absolutely is what Harry would do. And, Harry's getting embarrassed by Lockhart all the time throughout that chapter. Yeah, it's because Harry's so different in the book that maybe they just couldn't have... Now, I go back on that. I would have loved to see it in the movie. I would have loved to see that picture in the movie. Love that comment. Paula. Harry and Ron are completely boneheads without Hermione. They just do the first thing that they think of without considering the consequences. Very true with the car. If Hermione had been at King's Cross, she would have known to contact an adult instead of driving an enchanted car all the way to Hogwarts. Absolutely. Or as McGonagall said, why not just send an owl? Which is quite a lot simpler. It's true, because Hermione would have been on that train, right? There is one train journey to Hogwarts. No. I have a feeling that their train was at 9 on the first movie. Is there one train journey? I mean, they're certainly all on it. In future movies, like Half-Blood Prince. Like, as in, like, Draco and everyone else. But you're right, that there is no way they would have gotten away with doing the car tactic with Hermione. Even though Hermione has come a long way since the start of the first book, she still would have thought of a better way of dealing with the situation than what Ron and Harry came up with. Love that comment. Modima, I love how there's a party in Gryffindor common room and everyone's congratulating Harry and Ron for their flying. Lee Jordan is extremely excited and inspired. The twins would want to go with them. It's amazing, isn't it? The further you go on with the books, the more differences from the movies you'll see, I bet. I think that these movies are, as an adaptation, are really bad, especially later ones, but the books are awesome, so can't wait for your long analysis. Thank you so much, Modima. I'm sorry that it takes me so long to get to them, but yeah, I'm kind of preparing myself for the changes, because I think that particularly with Order of the Phoenix, I think it is, I know there's some books, some movies which really change things up. And so it'll be interesting to see what I find. I will still try and love the movies, guys, because I really do, but I can see how re-watching the movies after checking out the books could be quite a crazy shock. Jacqueline, why didn't you send us a letter by Al? I believe you haven't, Al, Professor McGonagall said coldly to Harry. Harry gasped at her. Now she said it, that seemed like the obvious thing to have done. I didn't think that, said Professor McGonagall, is obvious. God, I love the book McGonagall. Absolutely. You know what, Jacqueline? The movie version of... How can I put this? That scene in the movie is the worst McGonagall scene I've seen so far, because it wasn't McGonagall. Like I said, Dumbledore and McGonagall basically go in there to save Harry and Ron from Snape, which is insane. This scene in the book is so... I think that's why this video is so long. I think I must have spent a good 20 minutes just talking about this one scene. McGonagall and Dumbledore in this scene are awesome, and they're absolutely doing what they should be. They are reprimanding the students. And that line right there, it's cold, hard logic. I'll admit, I didn't think about sending an Al for a second, neither did Harry. But yeah, I didn't think that is obvious. That is a great... That, I bet, is... I'm going to... My brother's a teacher, actually. I'm going to tell him that line, because that is a good owning line right there. Great comment, Jacqueline. Yeah, you're right. McGonagall in that scene is so good in the book. H. Compared to the movie. That's the first scene which I've really moaned about in the movies, hasn't it? I think. Yeah. It was difficult not to feel jealous of Ron when he thought of the Dursleys and the sort of welcome he would expect next time he turned up at Privet Drive. This line is a great reminder Harry wants what Ron has, while Ron wants what Harry has. Brilliant point, H. That is basically their frickin' story, isn't it? That is such a great point. And the fact that we don't get that in the movie earlier on from Harry is such a good point. The fact that he is very jealous of... He's trying to not feel jealous of Ron. So keys their character. I also really like that Hermione has a proper crush on Lockhart. In addition to her, at this point, trust in authority figures. Very good point. For me, breaking down that trust is an important part of her story arc throughout the series. That's awesome. Whilst the crush makes her human, which is good. That is a brilliant point, H. See, the thing is, I don't know this because I haven't read the... I think at the end of Chamber, that might stand out more obviously. But the fact that not only that, Lockhart is this famous guy, her teacher, and an authority figure, and that all, goes by the wayside by the end of Chambers, at least in the movie, how that would break down her trust and authority. Fantastic point. Fantastic point, H. I really like that. I really do. Anna Marie. I really wish they showed how Hermione's crushed on Lockhart. It made her seem more human. Yeah, I mean, I think it is just the quiz scene, right? I would have to go back and look to see if she's reading the werewolf book a lot. I mean, that would be a subtle way of showing that she's at least interested in Lockhart. But I'm pretty sure that the crush aspect of Hermione over Lockhart is just that one scene. And it does make her more human. I think that it's always the case that faults in people's characters are the most character building. I really do, guys. That's probably why I love Persona 4 so much, which is all about people having personal faults and overcoming them and accepting them, and accepting those faults. So I think that I've heard that the directors made a point of trying to make Hermione... How can I put this? I don't want to say competent, because I don't think that's correct. I think taking away aspects of her personality that could be misconstrued as weakness, I think that's probably the best way I could put it, makes her a less interesting character. That being said, I really, really like movie Hermione. At this point, I do much prefer book Hermione. So yeah, I agree. Great comment. Torini, which I'm still sure I'm saying wrong. I haven't commented on one of these yet, but it's a new commenter. But I wanted to do so, if nothing else, to let you know that I love all these videos. Keep up the good work. I'm a big thank you so much. It's so kind of you. I'm so sorry that they take me so long, and I've had to take several weeks off this time in the process. As for these chapters, I think lots of people above brought up interesting bits, but I wonder if you are with me in greatly enjoying Jim Dale's performance on Lockhart. I would say both Stephen Fry and Jim Dale's are they're brilliant versions of Lockhart. Obviously, Kenneth Branagh is amazing in the movie as well, but it's interesting to hear these different versions. But yeah, you're right, Jim Dale is amazing. I think his attitude and his inflection is perfect, pretty much spot on for the character. I agree. I think he's doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much for your kind comment. Eshi. Some significant differences you see in the book is when Draco calls Hermione Mudblood, everyone in the Gryffindor team gets angry about it. Yeah, it kicks off. It really kicks off. It's just not there in the movie at all. They all just stood there with... Oh, I can't say that. I was about to say a return then. They all stood there with their thumbs somewhere. I'll put it like that. Yeah, they are. They all just stood there until Ron, gets his broken wand out. Whereas in this, Fred and George are freaking going for Draco, and Flint is having to get in the way and everything. Like, the girls in the Gryffindor team are saying, "How dare you!" And it's awesome. I agree. I do much prefer... That is... It really puts that term over as something which is unacceptable. Like, unacceptable. And it's put over as being bad in the movie. But this is... Seriously, it's like a crime to say this sort of thing. The way that the Gryffindor team kicks off. I completely agree with you. Also, you will see that Ron is the one who explains everything about the word to Harry and Hermione. Yeah, which is, again, like that commentary on says, it really puts Ron over as a babyface, which I shouldn't use wrestling terms, but it really puts Ron over as someone who... It just means nothing to them, the fact that someone could be half-blood. Brilliant. Or Muggle-born, I should say. Digo. Something I noticed reading this time. Ron is other than in the movie, not an idiot that just forgets to make the car invisible until Harry tells him. Absolutely, yeah, they're panicking and everything, but that is a stupid thing to do. But because Harry, I think he's being sarcastic, or maybe he's being serious. Like in the movie, like says, I think I should tell you that Muggles are not accustomed to seeing flying cars. Maybe he's being sarcastic, or maybe he's actually thinking he's having to tell Ron that. But yeah. But instead, the car gets revealed to Muggles in London only because the invisibility device fails. There we go, which is also does in the movie, but just later on, make it even weirder to me that they chose to let Ron look like an idiot instead of depicting it happening in the book, like it happened in the book. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even when I was reacting to the movies, people were saying that how Ron was done dirty at times, and that is a classic example of it. On another note, I found it absolutely adorable that Mrs. Weasley has no clue how large the Muggle car is supposed to be. Oh, there you go. I didn't even because she's there. She's in the back with like the bench and everything like that. She thinks that that's what a Muggle car is like on the inside. That I didn't think about that at all. Great point right there. It's a dance thing. This book is where I had my first major issue with the movie versions. Hermione should not have known what Mudblood means, let alone being hurt or upset by it. She did not grow up being discriminated against for her blood status and oppressed or being called that name. I should stop doing this because I keep on stop reading comment halfway through. I just want to make this point because I don't want to forget about it. That is such a good point. It's a dance thing. Because even if Hermione had heard it at the start of the first year, so it would have been something that she knows is seriously very, very, very bad, that is going to be nowhere near as bad as someone who's half-blood. Because if you're half-blood, then you would have known for longer that of the Wizarding World, and would no doubt know about the discrimination, and very possibly have been discriminated from a very young age by other wizards. That is a very good point. I didn't think about the fact that obviously it's very bad for Hermione, but even then it wouldn't be as upsetting to her, even if she did know what the term is, as someone whose parents had to go through it and so would know about it from a very young age. Very, very good point. Right, I will now continue your comment. I'm sorry. Even if she had come across it in a book, it wouldn't have carried the same weight. It also took so much away from Ron and the rest of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, for that matter. I agree. Their reaction is awesome in the book. That whole scene, Colin included, yes, Colin is there as well, Colin included, was so boring in the movie in comparison. It was short, wasn't it? Because that's in the audiobook is like a good 20-minute scene, and yet the movie version is like a 30-second scene, and covering it all. The book definitely puts over the fact that it is a bad term that people should not be using a lot better than the movie version. It's just too short. The movie version is just way too short, and then we get the blooming slugs thing there. No, the slug thing does happen there. Okay, I'm getting confused. But yes, yeah, and it's just like in a courtyard, isn't it? Yeah. I like to give the movies leeway when I can, guys, but that scene in the book is so much better. Gary. As you say, Jerry here. Oh, I mean Gary. I'm sorry, Gary. It's because you are two R's, and that instantly makes me think, oh, something must be different then. It's my dyslexia, I'm sorry. As a kid, reading the bits where flying the car to the school, it made total sense to my 12-year-old brain. As an adult, I'm thinking that they just stole Ron's parents' car. Did they think Molly and Arthur were just going to leave it there? Why didn't Ron and Harry wait for them to come back out? They must have noticed that Harry and Ron didn't come through the barrier. What a pair of numpties. Numpties, I appreciate the term there. Well, they do say that they're worried that that Molly and Arthur can't get back out. And I think that line's even in the movie as well. But they still shouldn't have just done... They should have given Molly and Arthur some time to come back through. I guess in the movie version, you could be thinking that they need to find the train as fast as possible because they don't know the way at all. But the movie version absolutely suggests that they do, because they find the blooming track before they find the train. How did they do that? Unless they find it and then they say, we've lost it. Or maybe that happens. I can't remember. But yeah, very good points. They are absolutely a pair of numpties. That is a great term, Gary. I appreciate it. Jonas. Had to make sure I did not skip the chapter because in my German edition, the chapter Mudblood and Murmurs was translated into... Okay, here's my German accent. Die unheimlich... I'm sorry, that's very terrible. Which means the creepy voice. How interesting, because that's at the end of this chapter, like right at the end, isn't it? Anyways, thank you very much, Jonas. That's very interesting. Always reading this chapter, I realise how, for some time, I have been really annoying my older brother through the dialogue between Harry and Colin. Colin is so fascinated with everything Harry does, and it seems a little bit mean that Harry is so bored by him. But I can understand why Harry would be annoyed. Me too, and why my brother was, bless Jonas. You're right. I mean, there are reasons. For one, Harry has just been woken up on a Saturday morning when he thinks he's going to have a bit of a lie-in, so that doesn't help. Also, the more Colin is hanging around him, the more everyone's going to think that Harry is handing out these blooming photographs. And then he hands in this photograph saying, can he sign this? And for him to sign it, it would absolutely make everyone think that Harry is handing out signed photographs. And so there are absolutely reasons. And he does apologise, because he straight up like says no to Colin when like Colin says, can you sign this? But then does say, sorry, I need to get going. So he is being rude. But no, he's in a tough situation, like you say, Jonas. I understand why he's doing what he's doing as well. It's a great. Their interactions are great in the book. They're very brief in the movies, but they're very good in the book. Sarah, the Lockhart quiz remains the funniest introduction to a Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher ever. I can't disagree with that. I can't imagine anything else being topping that. He is so in love with himself that all he cares about is that all his students know his favourite colour, what he most wants as a gift, and to hear which of his achievements have been most impressed, what they've been most impressed. Had most impressed them, I'm sorry. And then when it comes to him actually doing magic, he can't do anything. It's amazing, Sarah, isn't it? Yeah, this is the thing. Like, both Jim Dale and Stephen Fry's version of the tut-tut, no one knew that my favourite colour was lilac. It's like, tut-tut, no one even knew that my favourite colour was lilac. Whereas Kenneth Branagh is like, tut-tut. No one even got that my favourite colour is lilac. He's like, how do you students not know this? I love that aspect of him. I love Jim Dale's and Stephen Fry's, but Kenneth Branagh is still the best. Yeah, of course, he's the best because he's the best actor. I don't think it's too controversial to say that Kenneth Branagh is a better actor than Jim Dale and Stephen Fry, guys. Jim Dale did a lot of comedy acting in his youth and then went into stage. Stephen Fry was always the non-actor out of his double act with Hugh Laurie. And they've both gone on to do serious acting since. But Kenneth Branagh is a fantastic actor. And he always has been. And so I don't think it's too controversial to say that I think he's the best actor. And I love the way he delivers that line. It's like, you guys don't know what my favourite colour is. What else have you been learning at Hogwarts? It's brilliant. Brilliant. Awa. Which I'm sorry if I'm saying wrong. People can hate on Professor Snape all they want. The fact remains that he is the teacher most concerned with his students' physical safety. When Harry and Ron didn't arrive at Hogwarts on the train with the others, Snape was the only teacher who noticed that they were missing and went to search for them. That is a very interesting interpretation of that scene. While the rest of the staff sat having the feast, I think it reveals a lot about the inner character and motivation. Absolutely great point, Hawa. One thing that characterizes Book Snape is that he is verbally harsh, but always physically gentle. His students' physical safety is number one priority for him. Whether Snape likes or dislikes someone has no bearing on whether he protects them or not. He simply does it. It's one of the reasons why I like Book Snape so much. That's very interesting. That is a great comment, guys. Hawa, I really appreciate that. I mean, yeah, but I'm looking forward to more Book Snape. And I'm not sure how much Book Snape we're going to have in Chamber, because he was noticeable by how little he was in Chamber of Secrets, after how significant he was in Philosopher's Stone when I was watching them. So I'm looking forward to finding out more about Book Snape. That's very interesting what you're saying about verbally harsh but physically gentle. I like that. He does bonk. Oh, no, he doesn't. I was going to say he bonks Harry and Ron's head together, but he doesn't. He just, like, pushes their heads back to their books, doesn't he, in Half-Blood Prince. It starts with V, doesn't it? It's not Violet, is it? You know, like around a couple of hours ago when I couldn't remember that girl's name. Could be Violet. Okay. Renee. Oh, no, hang on. Anita. I hope I'm saying your name right. Yes, sorry, I almost skipped your comments. Part of what I love about the books is actually reading about the classes, and it's not always Gryffindor or Slytherin taking the classes together. Notice in the book, it's Gryffindor and Hufflepuff taking the herbology, not Slytherin like in the movie. Now that's interesting, Anita, because you're absolutely right. As I remember in the first book, it did say that Slytherin and Gryffindor do take classes together. But in the movie, in that scene that you're talking about, everyone's there. There are a couple of... Now, I didn't notice this at all until literally today, when I was revisiting. Justin is there. I think he's near Seamus, in fact. And then behind him, there's a couple of people with blue ties on. But obviously, we're more focused on the characters that we know. Like, much more focused on the characters know. Being Draco, who shouldn't be there in the book. And, of course, the Gryffindor lot. But, yeah... I do definitely prefer that, and I'm looking forward to more of that actually, because it definitely added. I mean, is Justin getting some good airtime. I really appreciate it. I thought that was awesome. Apparently, like, I think I heard that Justin's introduction is not in the standard version of Chamber of Secrets, the movie, which is kind of insane. I think I heard that. Anyway, Renee, thank you very much for your comment, Anita. And yet. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at reading names. Renee, I know how to say that though. These chapters include what is by far my most egregious change in my mind. Giving Hermione Aaron's Wizarding World knowledge. Oh! Rob's not on... I'm so sorry. Hermione's Aaron's Wizarding World knowledge. Rob's not on Rob of his intelligence, but Hermione of emotional weight and realizing... Oh, Ron, I think... Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Realizing she has been the victim of a racial slur. Yeah. Yeah. That is such a big difference. It's the biggest difference in these chapters. It really is. Also, a proud Ravenclaw, it pains me deeply that our first representation is a preening Gilderoy Lockhart. I don't know. I would welcome into Hufflepuff with open arms. Quite frankly, I think he's freaking hilarious. But yeah, not a nice person when we find out, when he's fully exposed and everything. I do think his house sorting raises an interesting point that the defining house feature can come in many guises, as we see with Neville Gryffindor's courage. Yeah, exactly what I was saying about earlier on, how that's the aspect of Neville which really doesn't subscribe to the Gryffindor. Gilderoy, I mean, who's the worst Hufflepuff? Yeah, there are Hufflepuffs calling Harry names in Goblet of Fire, and with the badges and everything. And even though I was celebrating the fact that those badges existed because I'm a Hufflepuff mark, there was part of me was thinking, come on Hufflepuff, we're better than this. Really genuinely was a part of me like that. So yeah, that's a great comment, Renee. I really appreciate that. And it's nice to hear a Ravenclaw's opinion of Lockhart. That is the first time I've heard that, and that is fascinating to hear. Oh, by the way, guys, Howl's Moving Castle is viewable on the Patreon. Even if you're not a patron, guys, I've actually posted it unlocked, and so anyone can go and check it out if you want. You will need your own copy of the movie to sync it to, though. Final 4 comments. Ashley, how do you feel about Book Hermione not being fazed by the Mudblood comment? I hate that they had her cry in the movie and underplay the Gryffindor. I don't know what this means, but the fact that they kicked off. I thought I'd missed something. My note that I made, is it right here? Book doesn't give away. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so I've got everyone goes crazy at Mudblood line. These are like the sentences that I write down. Then the next one is book doesn't give Hermione's reaction. So I was thinking maybe it was doing that because when they get to Hagrid, it would be more powerful for her to, then start bawling. But no, it's because she doesn't know what it means. It's better done. It's better done in the book, isn't it? It really is. Q. I agree with the above comments that Hermione and the other Gryffindors' reaction to the Mudblood scene makes so much more sense in the book. I think Hagrid's reaction is also really interesting, given what you said previous about Muggles. Very good point, Q. This is something which I've said several times. It's the fact that Hagrid does seem quite rude about Muggles. He ain't calling them Mudbloods, but he seems quite condescending about them. And so that is such a good point. It's even, in fact, I think I said that in my reaction. I think I said that in my movie reaction when Hagrid is like saying, that people can say these terrible things and you should not listen to them. I think I actually do say, well, you said some bad things as well. Great point, Q. I don't think you're wrong that he holds some, possibly I know this word. Unconscious, is it? Yeah, I think essentially unconscious. Probably unconscious bias against them, which I think that's probably it. But A, I doubt he'd have much interaction with Muggles given how obviously magical he is, very true. And B, he doesn't show a lot of compassion with Hermione and disdain for the concept of pure or blood purity, which makes sense given his status in the wizarding world. I also think Neville was poorly represented in the movie scene with the mandrakes. This is his best subject. This is. I didn't make this connection at all. You're so right. Having him faint was unnecessary. Anyway, I love watching your reactions. You're doing a great job picking up on a lot of stuff. Thank you very much, Q. And like I said earlier on, it's the first scene with Neville in, and they want to give him a Neville moment in the movie. That's what I think their thinking is. But character-wise, it doesn't make sense. Great comment, Q. I appreciate you. Catty. I still can't decide if Lockhart is my favourite Defense Against the Arts teacher. That's a good question. If we're including Snape in it, I don't think I can't say it's not Snape. Just because of how useless he is. How did this guy convince so many witches and wizards that he knew how to do anything is still amazes me. Well, I would imagine that Dumbledore is on top of it. Because Dumbledore's on top of everything, is what we gather from, well, I gather from this story anyway. But the fact he has convinced so many people, including people as smart as Hermione and everything, that he is this guy. But Ron and Hagrid had their doubts, though. It's probably one of these things where if you don't speak with him directly, then you probably think, oh, wow, he's amazing. But as soon as you start to speak to him for a while, you're thinking, yeah, this guy's full of S. He's up there, Catty, for me. He's up there. But if we're including Snape, I can't not say Snape. But I think he has to be number 2. Oh. I mean, Umbridge is amazing. I'm looking forward to meeting Book Umbridge, guys. I really am. And yeah, the last comment from just 16 hours ago. So nice one getting in. I really like the way Lockhart is presented to the reader. You get immediately the impression of his charlatanery. Is that a word? Charlatany. Like charlatan. Charlatany. Is that a word? That is awesome. I did not know that was a word. That's fantastic. However, it is also really funny how he just assumes that Harry chose to fly to Hogwarts with the Ford Anglia, correct? Just because he wanted to be as famous as Lockhart himself. He's a paranoid soul, isn't he? That's why I think that he got Harry to sign his to write his envelopes. He's a paranoid soul. He saw the newspaper and thinking, why am I not on? Maybe he was expecting to be on the front page. Yeah, maybe there was another story where he was thinking, yeah, I'll walk this. I'll be on the front of the Evening Prophet. Reads this story about this car and then finds out that Harry is involved in it. He's a great character. He is a great character. I also really like that we finally get some more interaction with Hufflepuff, like Professor Sprout, absolutely, and Justin, which we get earlier on. As always, thanks for your dedication and great work. Greetings from Germany. Thank you very much for that awesome comment here. Charlatanary. That is a great word. And that is that, guys. This was a long one. I love doing the book club. Seriously, I really do, guys. You make these book reviews worth doing. You really do. I need to close this one, so I'll type in closed and see you next time at the top and everything. But thank you all so much for taking part of it. I'm so sorry this did take me a while to get to this time, but it really did, guys. I'm sorry. I had to take some time off. And the thing is, I'm terrible, because when I'm relaxing, I'm thinking, oh, I'm hoping I'm not letting my subscribers down. And my patrons, guys, you are the ones who are sending pledges, and so I do appreciate you, I really do. And when I'm trying to relax and de-stress and recover from burnout, I am thinking I need to be getting you guys stuff though. And so I'm sorry that it did take me a while to get you this one. I hope to get you more faster in the future. I really do, because I really do enjoy doing these. And I'm thoroughly enjoying this book right now. I really am. And you know what? Gilderoy is largely the reason for that. He is amazing. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm VEGGIEKNIGHTS, and I'll see you next time.